The black moon bled across the sky as Priya was dragged, against her will, to the fortress of the most feared wolf lord in the 7 packs. Lord Vesper, the Ice Lord, had lost his first mate to a silver blade and a killer who left only one message: his heart is next. Now a new bride has arrived, but the moment Priya steps inside those black walls, the notes begin again. Written in fresh blood, pinned to her pillow, carved into the stones themselves. Every kiss she shares with the hollow-eyed lord pulls the mate bond tighter and feeds something ancient and hungry that has been waiting 7 lifetimes to rise. With every chapter, the shadow grows another head. With every night their passion deepens, the final choice draws closer. Sacrifice the bond that saved them both, or watch every pack drown in darkness. Us twists you will never see coming, a love so fierce it could break the world, and a final revelation that will leave you breathless. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where forbidden romance collides with deadly secrets, and every shadow hides a twist that will steal your heart. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and dive into the full 14-chapter saga of Shadowed Hearts, the Wolf Lord's defiant mate. Your next obsession is waiting, and trust me, once you start, you won't be able to stop. Stay enchanted, stay subscribed, and I'll see you in the shadows, where the real game begins. Chapter 1. The ancient lottery had chosen her. Priya had known the moment the black-robed elders stepped into her father's modest hall in the Whispering Pines pack. Their eyes had scanned the gathered daughters like hawks, and when the silver runestone flared white in her palm, the room had gone silent. No one cheered, no one congratulated. They only bowed their heads, the way people did at funerals. She had tried to run that same night. The guards caught her at the river's edge, her bare feet bleeding, the moon already bleeding black overhead. The treaty demands it, they told her as they bound her wrists with silk that felt like chains. Lord Vesper has waited 7 years. The packs will have peace. Peace. The word tasted like ash. Everyone knew what had happened to his first mate, Lady Elara, found torn apart in the snow 3 winters past. Her throat opened as if by wolf claws. Some said Vesper had done it himself in a rage. Others whispered the killer still walked free among the packs. He's waiting for the next bride. Either way, the man she was being delivered to had not smiled since. They called him the Ice Lord now, heartless, unbreakable. The carriage jolted over the final rise. Priya pressed her forehead to the cold window and stared. Fortress Vesper loomed like a beast carved from the mountain itself, black stone walls rising sheer into the night, torches flickering in iron sconces that cast long, writhing shadows. Wolves the size of horses padded along the battlements, their eyes glowing amber. Not ordinary wolves. Pack lords in shifted form, guarding the only man strong enough to rule all 7 packs. The gates groaned open. Hooves clattered on flagstones. The carriage door swung wide, and a tall woman in charcoal robes offered a gloved hand. "Welcome, Lady Priya. I am Maestra Thorn, steward of the fortress. His lordship awaits." Priya stepped down on unsteady legs. The air smelled of pine, smoke, and something wild, musk and storm. Her simple traveling cloak felt ridiculous against the grandeur. She lifted her chin anyway. Courage, not submission. That was the vow she had whispered to herself the entire journey. She would not cower. She would earn her freedom with words sharp enough to cut ice. Maestra Thorn led her through halls lined with ancient tapestries depicting battles and moonlit hunts. Servants bowed but never met her eyes. At the end of the longest corridor, double doors of black oak waited, carved with snarling wolves. Thorn knocked once, then stepped aside. "Enter!" a voice commanded, deep, velvet over steel. Priya pushed the doors open herself. The chamber beyond was vast, lit only by a hearth fire large enough to roast a stag whole. Lord Vesper stood at the far window, back to her, silhouetted against the black moon. He was taller than the stories, shoulders broad beneath a tailored black tunic, dark hair brushing the collar. Even from behind, he radiated power, the kind that made the air feel heavier, the kind that reminded every wolf in the room who sat at the top of the food chain. He turned. Priya's breath caught before she could stop it. His face was carved from the same stone as the fortress. High cheekbones, a jaw like a blade, a mouth set in a line that had clearly forgotten how to smile. But it was his eyes that pinned her. Storm gray, flecked with gold, ancient with something that looked less like cruelty and more like exhaustion. Hollow, by as if the man behind them had died years ago and only the wolf remained. "Priya of Whispering Pines," he said. No greeting, no warmth, just the facts. "The lottery has bound you to me. You will be my mate in name and in law. Nothing more is required of you." She had rehearsed a dozen defiant speeches on the road. None of them survived the way he looked at her, like she was a document to be filed away. "Required?" she echoed, stepping fully into the firelight. "I was dragged from my home against my will, my lord. Forgive me if I don't curtsy and thank you for the honor." A flicker, there and gone, in those gray eyes. Surprise? Amusement? It vanished before she could name it. "You speak boldly for someone who has not yet seen her first sunrise here." He gestured to a side table where wine and 2 goblets waited. "Sit. We will dine in 1 hour. Maestra Thorn will show you to your chambers." Priya didn't move. "I'd rather know now what kind of monster you are, so I can decide whether to sharpen my tongue or my hidden dagger." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Closer to a predator acknowledging prey with teeth. "Most women who arrive here tremble and call me lord. You arrive spitting fire. Interesting." "I'm not most women." "No," he murmured, almost to himself. "You are not." He crossed the room in 3 strides. Close now, close enough that she caught the scent of him, cedar, frost, and something darker like blood on snow. Heat rolled off his body despite the ice in his voice. Priya's wolf, buried deep inside her, the part she had never fully shifted, stirred and lifted its head. My Vesper studied her face as though memorizing it for a future he didn't want. "The last woman who stood where you stand is dead. Remember that before you test me too far, little Firebrand. Dinner is at 9. Do not be late." He turned away again, dismissing her as if she were already a ghost. Maestra Thorn appeared at her elbow and guided her out. The doors closed with a final echoing thud. Priya's chambers were beautiful in a cold, impersonal way, silk drapes the color of midnight, a bed large enough for 3, a balcony overlooking the moonlit forest. A gown of deep emerald waited on a mannequin, clearly chosen for her. She ignored it, stripping off her travel clothes and washing quickly in the basin. Her reflection in the polished silver mirror looked wild-eyed, cheeks flushed, hair a tangle of dark waves. She braided it fiercely, pinning it like armor. 1 hour. 1 dinner. She would begin tonight. She would make him speak, make him feel something, anything, until the ice cracked enough for her to bargain her freedom. A soft knock. Thorn again. "His lordship is ready." The dining hall was smaller than she expected, intimate almost. A long table of dark wood, only 2 places set at one end. Candles flickered. Vesper was already seated, wine glass in hand, looking every inch the lord who had nothing left to lose. Priya took her seat without waiting to be told. Servants brought platters, roast venison still pink in the center, spiced root vegetables, fresh bread that smelled like home. Her stomach betrayed her with a growl. Vesper's gaze flicked to her. "Eat. You'll need your strength if you intend to keep challenging me." She cut a piece of meat with deliberate care. "Tell me about her. Lady Elara." The silence that followed was so complete, she could hear the wax dripping from the candles. "You waste no time," he said at last. His voice had gone flat, dangerous. Most brides wait at least until the first full moon before asking about the dead. I'm not most brides. So you keep reminding me. He took a slow sip of wine. She was kind, gentle. She laughed at my silences, and someone slit her throat while she slept in the very bed you will soon share with me. The killer left a silver dagger pinned to her nightgown with a note. The Ice Lord's heart is next. They never found who sent it. Priya's fork paused halfway to her mouth. The grief in his voice was buried so deep it sounded like stone grinding against stone, but it was there. Real. And you think it was one of the packs? She asked quietly. I know it was. His eyes met hers, gold flaring brighter. Which is why the lottery exists. A new mate binds the packs by blood. A new mate forces them to watch each other, and if the killer strikes again, this time I will be ready. The words hung between them like a blade. Priya set her fork down. So I'm bait. You're a treaty. He leaned forward, candlelight carving shadows under his cheekbones. But yes, bait has its uses. Her heart hammered. Part of her wanted to throw the wine in his face. Another part, the part that had always been too curious for her own good, wanted to keep peeling back the layers of ice until she found the man underneath. She lifted her glass instead. Then let's make a deal, my lord. I will stay. I will play the perfect mate in public. But in private, you answer my questions. All of them. And when the killer is caught, you grant me freedom to leave if I choose. He studied her for a long moment. The wolf inside him was watching too. She could feel it, that electric prickle along her skin. Bold, he murmured, and foolish. But very well, little Firebrand. 1 question per dinner. Earn the rest with your courage. Fail and the deal ends. Priya smiled, small and sharp. Deal. They ate in charged silence after that, but the air between them felt different, thicker, alive. When the last course was cleared, Vesper rose. Sleep well, Priya. Tomorrow the real games begin. He left without another word. Alone in the candlelit hall, she exhaled shakily. She had cracked the surface. Just a hairline fracture, but it was there. Yet as she walked back to her chambers, a new chill settled in her bones. Somewhere in the fortress, someone had murdered Elara, and that someone now knew a second bride had arrived. The black moon watched from the balcony window as Priya closed her door and leaned against it, heart racing. She had come here expecting a monster. What she had found was a man hollowed by grief, and a secret that could kill them both before the next moon rose. Chapter 2. The black moon still hung heavy in the sky as Priya slipped from her bed at midnight, the stone floor cold beneath her bare feet. She had heard it again, a soft scrape of claws on the outer balcony, too deliberate to be wind. Was it one of the guard wolves patrolling? Or had the killer already breached the fortress walls on her very first night? One wrong step outside these chambers, and the treaty that bound her to Lord Vesper could become her shroud instead of her shield. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where every shadow whispers secrets and love is forged in the fire of deadly risk. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the next twist that will leave you breathless. Priya pressed her ear to the heavy oak door of her chambers, listening. The fortress was never truly silent. Distant howls rose from the battlements, answered by others deeper in the pines. The black moon made every wolf restless. It suppressed shifts for most, but amplified the primal instincts in those strong enough to resist. She had always hated that part of pack life, the way the moon could turn civilized wolves into something raw and hungry. She had lain awake for hours replaying the dinner. Lord Vesper's voice when he spoke of Elara had cracked, just once, like ice under too much weight. He had agreed to her deal, 1 question per dinner, but she sensed the trap in it. He expected her to ask safe things, family, favorite foods, how the packs were governed. He did not expect her to strike at the heart of the wound. That was exactly why she would. A soft knock sounded. Priya, startled, then composed herself. She opened the door to find Maestra Thorn holding a silver tray with a single goblet of steaming liquid that smelled of herbs and honey. "His lordship sends a sleeping draught," the steward said, her face unreadable in the torchlight. "Oh, the black moon can bring nightmares to new arrivals." Priya took the goblet but did not drink. "Tell his lordship I prefer my nightmares awake. They're more honest." Thorn's lips thinned, but she offered the smallest nod. "Breakfast is at dawn in the East Solar. He expects you to join him. Wear the emerald gown. It is tradition." Tradition. The word grated. Priya closed the door and set the goblet aside untouched. She crossed to the balcony instead, pulling the heavy drapes just enough to peer out. The drop was sheer, hundreds of feet to the forested valley below. No handholds, no escape that way. Yet something moved in the shadows near the base of the tower. A flicker of darker fur against the pines. Too large for an ordinary wolf. Her own inner wolf stirred again, restless. Priya had suppressed her shifts since she was 16. After a painful first change that had nearly killed her father when she lost control. The healers called her fractured, a wolf too wild to fully emerge, too strong to stay buried. It made her an outcast in Whispering Pines. Perhaps that was why the runestone had chosen her. No one would mourn her long if she vanished. She returned to bed, but sleep refused her. Instead, she planned. Question 1 had to count. She would not waste it. Dawn arrived too soon, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds as the black moon finally sank. Priya dressed in the emerald gown despite her resentment. The fabric clung like a second skin, embroidered with tiny silver wolves that seemed to move when she turned. It made her look regal, dangerous, good. The East Solar was bathed in morning light streaming through tall arched windows. A table was set for 2 again. Fresh bread, honey, cheeses, and slices of rare venison. Lord Vesper was already there, standing at the window with his back to the room, hands clasped behind him. Sunlight caught the silver threads in his black tunic, making him look carved from night and frost. He turned when she entered. His gaze swept over her once, appraising, not leering, and something flickered in those storm-gray eyes. Approval? Wariness? It was gone before she could decide. "You wore the gown," he noted, voice low. "It was that or arrive naked to make a point. I chose diplomacy this morning." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth, there and instantly buried. He pulled out her chair. The gesture was automatic, courtly, but his fingers brushed the back of her arm as she sat. Heat bloomed where he touched, unexpected and unwelcome. Priya ignored it. They ate in silence for several minutes. She could feel him watching her over the rim of his cup. "You have one question," he said finally, setting his knife down with precise care. "Choose wisely, Priya. Once asked, it cannot be taken back." She met his eyes directly. "Who do you suspect killed Lady Elara?" The silence that followed was heavier than the fortress stones. Vesper's hand tightened around his goblet until the metal creaked. Gold flared bright in his irises, the wolf rising close to the surface. "You begin with the blade," he murmured. "Very well. I suspect 3. Alpha Kale of the Stormhowl Pack. He lost the leadership challenge to me 7 years ago and has never forgiven the humiliation. He was seen near the fortress the night she died. Then there is Lady Seraphine of the Emberfang Pack. She wanted the mating bond for herself and her daughter. Elara's death removed a rival. And finally, my own brother, Lord Draven. He has always believed the 7 packs need one true king, not a council of lords. Elara's gentle nature stood in the way of the wars he craves." Priya absorbed each name, committing them to memory. "And you have proof for none of them?" "Proof is what the killer erased." His voice dropped lower. The silver dagger used on Elara bore no scent. The note was written in blood that wasn't hers. Whoever it was knew how to hide from wolves. She leaned forward. Then why not investigate them yourself? You are the strongest lord among the 7 packs. They fear you. Because accusing the wrong alpha starts a war that would drown the packs in blood. The treaty, the lottery, keeps fragile peace. I play the grieving widower. I take a new mate, and I wait for the killer to grow bold enough to strike again. His eyes locked on hers. Now that mate is you. The words sent a shiver down her spine, not entirely from fear. There was possession in his tone, raw and ancient. Her wolf answered with a low internal growl that surprised her. Priya forced calm into her voice. So I am both shield and bait. Tell me, my lord, when the killer comes, will you protect me, or will you use my death to finally flush him out? Vesper rose slowly, circling the table until he stood behind her chair. He placed one hand on the back of it, the other on the table beside her plate, caging her without touching. His breath stirred the fine hairs at her nape. I protect what is mine, he said, voice velvet and gravel. Even when it spits fire and demands answers I do not wish to give. But make no mistake, Priya. If you push too hard, if you go looking where you should not, I will lock you in these walls myself, not out of cruelty, out of necessity. Her heart thundered. She could feel the heat of his body, the restrained power. Part of her wanted to lean back into it. The smarter part wanted to run. She turned her head just enough to meet his gaze over her shoulder. Then I suppose I'll have to be careful and very, very clever. For a heartbeat, the ice in his eyes thawed, just enough to show the man beneath, hungry and haunted. Then it refroze. He straightened. You have your answer. Tonight at dinner you may ask another, if you survive the day's protocol. The pack's emissaries arrive at noon to witness the formal binding ceremony. Smile for them. Look willing, or the fragile peace shatters before the killer even moves. He left without another word, cloak swirling like living shadow. Priya sat alone at the table, pulse racing. 3 suspects. A ceremony that would bind her to him in front of the very wolves who might want her dead. And the way Vesper had looked at her when he said, "What is mine?" It had not felt like duty. It had felt like the beginning of something far more dangerous than hate. She spent the morning being fitted for ceremonial robes by silent seamstresses. The fabric was heavy crimson shot through with gold, the color of blood and power. Maestra Thorne explained the rite in clipped tones. Blood exchange, moon vows, a public kiss to seal the mate bond in the eyes of the packs. Nothing physical beyond that, yet. The full claiming would wait until both parties consented under the next full moon. Priya's stomach twisted. Consent. She wondered if Elara had been given any. Noon arrived with the sound of horns echoing through the valley. Carriages bearing the crests of the 7 packs rolled through the gates. Priya stood on the balcony overlooking the courtyard, watching alphas and their entourages disembark. She recognized none by face, but she memorized banners. A howling storm cloud for Stormhowl, flickering flames for Emberfang, a crowned wolf for what must be Draven's pack. Lord Vesper appeared at her side without warning, dressed in formal black edged with silver. He offered his arm. Ready? As I'll ever be. They descended together. The great hall had been transformed. Banners hung, a raised dais with 2 thrones of carved obsidian. The emissaries watched with sharp, assessing eyes as Priya and Vesper took their places. The ceremony was swift and merciless in its formality. An elder from the neutral lunar council recited the ancient words. Their wrists were bound together with a cord of braided moon silver and wolf hair. A small silver knife appeared. Vesper took it first, slicing a shallow line across his own palm, then hers. Their blood mingled, dripping into a crystal bowl. Priya bit her lip against the sting. His blood felt hot against her skin, almost burning. When their eyes met during the vow, something electric passed between them. Her wolf rising to press against the surface of her mind, reaching for his. The elder pronounced them bound. Vesper cupped her face with his uninjured hand. His thumb brushed her lower lip once, a touch so gentle it stole her breath. Then he kissed her. It was not the chaste public kiss she had expected. It was slow, deliberate, acclaiming. His mouth moved against hers with restrained hunger, tasting of wine and winter. For one dizzying moment, Priya forgot the audience, forgot the danger. She kissed him back, defiant, curious, alive. When he pulled away, his eyes were pure gold. The hall erupted in polite applause that did not reach most eyes. As they stepped down from the dais, a tall man with silver-streaked hair and a storm-howl banner approached. Alpha Kale, his smile was all teeth. "Congratulations, Lord Vesper. May your new mate bring you the joy the last one could not." The words were poison wrapped in silk. Priya felt Vesper's arm tighten around her waist. Before either could respond, and another voice cut through, smooth, feminine, laced with venom. Lady Seraphine of Emberfang glided forward, her daughter, a beautiful young wolf with auburn hair at her side. "The bride is spirited," Seraphine purred, looking Priya up and down. "I do hope she lasts longer than poor Elara. Black moons are treacherous, aren't they?" Priya smiled sweetly. "Treacherous for those with something to hide, my lady." Seraphine's eyes narrowed. A third figure watched from the shadows near the pillars, Lord Draven, Vesper's brother. He looked like a darker, sharper version of Vesper, with a cruel twist to his mouth. He raised a goblet in silent toast, but his gaze lingered on Priya with something that felt like calculation. The ceremony ended with feasting, but Priya barely tasted the food. Every conversation carried double meanings. Every smile hid blades. By the time the emissaries began to depart at dusk, her nerves were raw. Vesper escorted her back to her chambers in silence. At the door, he paused. "You did well today," he said quietly, "but do not mistake their words for idle threats. One of them wants you dead before the next moon." He started to turn away. Priya caught his sleeve. "Wait, my question for tomorrow's dinner. I already know what it will be." He raised an eyebrow. She stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. "I want to know exactly how Elara died. Every detail you have hidden from the packs, and I want to see the silver dagger." His expression darkened. "That is more than one question." "Considerate interest on the first." For a moment she thought he would refuse. Then he gave a single, reluctant nod. "Tomorrow." But Priya, some truths cut deeper than silver. He left her there, the corridor echoing with his footsteps. Priya closed her door and leaned against it, heart still racing from the kiss that had felt far too real. The binding cord had been removed, but she could still feel the echo of his blood mixing with hers. Her wolf was awake now, pacing inside her chest, drawn to the powerful male who ruled these halls. She crossed to the balcony again. Night had fallen fully. In the distance, a lone howl rose, long, mournful, and far too close to the fortress walls. Then another answered. Closer. Priya's skin prickled. She stepped back inside and bolted the doors. But as she turned toward her bed, something caught her eye on the pillow. A single silver dagger, identical to the one that had killed Elara. Pinned beneath it was a note written in fresh blood. "Welcome to the game, new mate. The Ice Lord's heart is next. Yours will break first." The Black Moon had returned, and the killer had just sent their first personal greeting. Chapter 3. The silver dagger glinted on the pillow like a promise of death, the fresh blood on the note still wet enough to smear if she touched it. Priya's wolf surged forward so violently she nearly shifted right there, claws pricking at her fingertips as a low, guttural snarl tore from her throat. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, echoed in the corridor outside her bolted door. Was it the killer returning to finish the greeting, or Lord Vesper himself, drawn by the scent of blood that now filled her chambers like an invitation? Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where every chapter drips with danger. desire, and twists that will shatter your expectations. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the heart-stopping moment that changes everything. Priya's hand hovered over the dagger, trembling. She forced herself to breathe through the panic, the way her mother had taught her during her fractured first shift years ago. Control the wolf. Do not let it control you. Her claws retracted with painful effort, leaving faint red lines on her palms. She did not scream. Screaming would bring guards, questions, and perhaps the very person who had left this gift. Instead, she snatched the note and dagger, wrapping the blade carefully in the edge of her ceremonial robe to avoid leaving her own scent on it. The blood smelled wrong, metallic, overlaid with something herbal and bitter, like nightshade mixed with wolf root, a scent-masking agent. Clever. The killer knew exactly how to hide from noses sharper than steel. A soft knock sounded at the door. Priya froze. "Lady Priya?" Maestra Thorne's voice, calm and measured. "His lordship requests your presence in the war room. There has been an incident on the Eastern Ridge." Incident. The word could mean anything from a border skirmish to another body. Priya slipped the wrapped dagger into the deep pocket sewn into her robe and smoothed her expression before opening the door. Thorne's eyes flicked once to the bed, nostrils flaring subtly. She said nothing about the missing pillow or the faint copper tang still lingering in the air. "Follow me! Quickly!" They moved through torchlit corridors that seemed longer in the dark. Priya's heart hammered in time with their footsteps. The binding ceremony's echo still thrummed in her blood, Vesper's power brushing against hers like a constant low-frequency hum. It made her hyper-aware of every shadow, every distant howl. The war room was deep in the heart of the fortress, carved directly into the mountain. Maps of the 7 packs covered one wall marked with colored pins and shifting runes that updated with moon phases. A massive obsidian table dominated the center, currently scattered with reports and a single blood-stained scrap of fabric. Lord Vesper stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up, exposing powerful forearms corded with muscle. His dark hair was tousled as if he had run his hands through it repeatedly. When Priya entered, his storm-gray eyes locked on her immediately, gold flickering at the edges. He knew. The mate bond, however new and incomplete, had already whispered the danger to him. "Leave us," he commanded the handful of advisors present. They bowed and filed out, Thorne last, closing the heavy doors with a resonant thud. The moment they were alone, Vesper crossed the room in 3 strides and gripped her shoulders, not gently. What happened? Priya pulled the dagger and note from her pocket, letting the fabric fall away. The silver blade caught the torchlight, throwing cruel reflections across his face. Vesper's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He took the dagger without touching the bloodied note, turning it slowly in his hands. The hilt was etched with the same snarling wolf motif as the one that had killed Elara, identical down to the tiny imperfection in the left fang. "It was on my pillow," Priya said, voice steadier than she felt. "While we were at the feast. The killer was inside my chambers tonight, Vesper. Inside." He flinched almost imperceptibly at the sound of his name on her lips. No title, no distance. Then his jaw tightened. "You should have called for guards the moment you saw it." "And alert the entire fortress that the new mate is already being hunted? No, I wanted you to see it first, untouched by anyone else's hands." She stepped closer, refusing to let him tower over her. "This proves the killer was here during the ceremony, one of the emissaries, or someone they brought with them. Kyle, Seraphine, or your brother Draven, or all 3 working together." Vesper set the dagger on the table beside the blood-stained fabric. "The Eastern Ridge Patrol found one of my wolves dead an hour ago, throat torn out, same silver blade signature, same masking scent. The note pinned to his chest read, 'The second bride watches. She is next.'" Priya's stomach lurched. A guard had died because of her arrival, because the killer wanted to send a message loud enough for the whole fortress to hear. She reached for the new scrap of fabric. Vesper caught her wrist before she could touch it. Don't. The blood is fresh and laced. With what? Nightshade and silver nitrate, enough to burn a wolf from the inside if it enters the bloodstream. His thumb brushed the pulse point on her wrist, the touch unexpectedly gentle despite the violence of his words. You handled the dagger. Did any blood touch an open cut? She shook her head. No, but the note. He released her and picked up the note himself, bringing it close to his face. His nostrils flared. The blood on this one is different. Human, not wolf, and younger. His eyes met hers, dark with something that looked frighteningly like fear. This blood is fresh tonight, from someone still alive or recently killed inside these walls. Priya felt the floor tilt. A servant? A maid who helped dress me? Possibly. Vesper moved to the map wall, pinning the new note beside older reports. The killer is escalating. With Elara, it was one clean strike and silence for 7 years. With you, it's games, warnings. They want me to watch you suffer before they finish it. Priya's wolf growled low in her chest, with the sound slipping out audibly this time. Vesper's head snapped toward her, surprise flashing across his features. You're not fully suppressed, he said quietly. Your wolf is fractured but strong. That's why the runestone chose you. It sensed you could survive me. Survive you? She laughed bitterly. I'm more worried about surviving whoever is playing with silver daggers and blood notes. Tell me about the first dagger, the one that killed Elara. You promised details tonight. He hesitated, the ice walls slamming back into place. For a moment she thought he would refuse, invoke some lordly privilege. Then he exhaled, long and weary, and gestured for her to sit at the table. Elara was found at dawn in our shared chambers, the ones you now occupy. She had been asleep when the killer entered. No forced entry, no struggle. The silver dagger was buried to the hilt in her throat, pinning the note to her nightgown. The Ice Lord's heart is next. Her blood had soaked the sheets, but the wound was precise, meant to kill slowly enough for her to feel it, but not so slowly that she could scream. Priya swallowed hard. And the scent? None. The killer used the same masking agent, but stronger than. We found traces of it on the balcony railing. Someone had climbed from below, using climbing claws coated in the same mixture. The drop is lethal for most, not for a strong alpha. Or someone with help inside, Priya added. Vesper nodded once. My investigators ruled out servants quickly. Too many alibis, too little strength. The 3 I named remain the strongest suspects. Kyle has the rage. Seraphine has the cunning and access to rare herbs through her pack's apothecaries. Draven. He paused, pain flickering raw across his face. Draven has the knowledge of the fortress layout. He grew up here. He knows every secret passage, every blind spot in the guard rotations. Priya reached across the table and laid her hand over his before she could think better of it. His skin was fever hot, the mate bond humming stronger at the contact. You loved her. It wasn't a question. Vesper didn't pull away. I respected her. She was kind in a world that rewarded cruelty. I never loved her the way the songs claim mates should. The bond was political, like this one, but she did not deserve what was done to her. His fingers curled slightly under hers, not quite holding but not rejecting either. And you do not deserve this game either. Priya. Yet here we are. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside her chest. She had come here determined to earn freedom through defiance. Now, sitting in a war room with a silver dagger that could have ended her life tonight, freedom felt distant and childish. Survival felt more urgent. And beneath that, something far more terrifying. Attraction, sharp and undeniable, to the hollow man who was slowly letting her see the shards of his heart. A sharp rap on the door interrupted them. Thorne's voice carried through the wood. My lord, the Eastern Patrol has returned with the body. You should see this. Vesper stood, releasing her hand. Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Do not open it for anyone but me. Priya rose too. I'm not hiding in this room while you investigate. I'm your mate now, in name at least. Let me see what we're facing. He studied her for a long moment, the gold in his eyes swirling. You truly have no sense of self-preservation, do you? On the contrary, I intend to preserve myself by knowing the enemy. A reluctant half-smile ghosted across his lips, the first real one she had seen. It transformed his face, making him look younger, almost approachable. Very well, Firebrand, but stay behind me, and if I tell you to run, you run. They descended to the lower bailey where the body had been brought. The dead wolf, shifted back to human form in death, lay on a stone slab under torchlight. His throat was a ruin of torn flesh and silver burns, but it was the note pinned above the wound that made Priya's blood run cold. It was addressed directly to her. Dearest new mate, you asked for details. Here is one. Elara screamed. No one heard because I silenced the walls that night. Your turn comes soon. Enjoy the Ice Lord while you can. His heart will shatter beautifully when I take you apart piece by piece. Vesper's growl was low and lethal, echoing off the stone. His claws extended fully, black and razor-sharp. The air around him thickened with alpha power, making the guards nearby drop to their knees. Priya forced herself to look closer at the body. Something was off about the wounds. The tearing looked like claws, but the edges were too clean in places, as if a blade had been used first to weaken, then claws to savage. Hybrid kill. Someone who could shift partially or use tools while in wolf form. She pointed it out quietly to Vesper. He nodded once, jaw tight. As they turned to leave, a commotion erupted at the gate. A lone rider on a lathered horse burst through, cloak bearing the neutral Lunar Council crest. He dismounted and ran straight to Vesper, dropping to one knee. My lord! Urgent message from the Whispering Pines pack. Your mate's father has been attacked in his home. He lives, but the assailant left a message carved into the wall above his bed. Tell your daughter the game has crossed packs. The lottery's choice will die with her bloodline. Priya's vision tunneled. Her father, the gentle scholar who had begged the elders not to take her. He was hurt because of her. Vesper's arm came around her waist instantly, steadying her as the world spun. His voice was steel wrapped in unexpected warmth. I will send my fastest healers and triple the guard on your family's lands. No one touches what is mine. But Priya was already pulling away, unmind racing. The killer had struck outside the fortress now. The game was no longer contained, and the next target was clear. Later that night, after the healers had been dispatched and the fortress locked down tighter than a tomb, Priya stood on her repaired balcony, new guards posted below and on the roof. Vesper had insisted on escorting her back personally. He lingered at the door, the mate bond pulling them both like an invisible tether. You should rest, he said, but made no move to leave. I won't sleep with that note burned into my mind. She turned to face him fully, the emerald gown from earlier replaced by a simple night robe that somehow felt more exposing under his gaze. Thank you. For believing me. For acting on my family. He stepped closer, until only a breath separated them. You are my mate, Priya. In blood and vow now. I protect what is mine, not out of duty alone. His hand rose, hesitating, then cupped her cheek with a tenderness that contradicted every story of the heartless Ice Lord. Your courage tonight. It reminds me what it felt like to want something more than revenge. Her breath hitched. The air between them crackled. She could feel his wolf calling to hers, fractured though it was, strong, ancient, lonely. Priya rose on her toes without thinking and pressed her lips to his in a kiss that started soft and turned fierce in seconds. Vesper groaned low in his throat, one arm banding around her waist to pull her flush against him. The kiss deepened, hungry and desperate, as if 7 years of grief and ice were melting under the heat of her defiance. his free hand tangled in her hair, tilting her head for better access. Priya tasted storm and cedar and the faint copper of shared blood from the ceremony. Her wolf howled inside her, pressing closer to the surface than it had in years. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Vesper rested his forehead against hers. "This changes nothing about the danger," he whispered, "but it changes everything about why I will burn the 7 packs to the ground before I let them take you." A distant howl split the night, closer than before, mocking. Priya shivered, but not from cold. She whispered back, "Then let's find the killer together. No more secrets between us." He kissed her once more, softer this time, a vow sealed in the dark. No more secrets. As he finally left, posting 2 of his most trusted guards outside her door, Priya returned to the bed. The pillow had been replaced, but the memory of the dagger remained. She lay awake long after the torches dimmed, the taste of Vesper still on her lips and the mate bond humming warmer in her veins. Tomorrow she would demand access to the secret passages Draven might know. Tomorrow she would push harder. But tonight, for the first time since the lottery chose her, the fortress no longer felt like a prison. It felt like the only place in the 7 packs where she might be truly safe, even as the killer circled closer, sharpening silver for the next strike. Chapter 4. The distant howl faded into an unnatural silence that pressed against the fortress walls like a living thing. But Priya couldn't shake the feeling that it had been a signal. Not from the guards. Not from Vesper's loyal wolves. Something far more intimate, meant only for her ears. As she finally drifted toward uneasy sleep, a faint scrape echoed from inside the wall beside her bed, as if claws were testing stone from a passage no map revealed. Had the killer just whispered a personal invitation into her dreams, or was the fortress itself beginning to betray its master? Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where forbidden romance ignites amid lethal secrets and every chapter twists sharper than silver. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the moment that turns safety into seduction. Morning light filtered weakly through the narrow, arrow-slit windows as Priya dressed in practical riding leathers instead of the silken gowns Maestra Thorn kept offering. The mate bond thrummed steadily in her chest now, a warm, golden thread linking her to Vesper even when he wasn't near. It carried faint echoes of his emotions, controlled fury, bone-deep exhaustion, and something hotter, more possessive, that made her cheeks flush. She found him in the war room again, poring over updated maps with fresh pins marking her father's attack in Whispering Pines. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, but the moment she entered, his posture shifted. The ice cracked a fraction more, revealing the man who had kissed her like a drowning soul the night before. "You didn't sleep," he said without looking up, voice rough with concern. "Neither did you." Priya moved to his side, close enough that their arms brushed. The contact sent a spark through the bond. "The killer used a secret passage last night. I heard scraping in the wall beside my bed. We need to search the hidden routes Draven would know." Vesper's hand stilled on the map. "Those passages are sealed by blood wards only I and my inner circle can open. If the killer used one, it means betrayal from within my most trusted." Exactly. She placed the silver dagger from her pillow on the table between them. And this blade matches the first one perfectly. Same maker, same imperfection in the fang. Where were they forged? He hesitated, then exhaled. "In the Emberfang forges, Seraphine's pack controls the only silversmith capable of working moon-tempered metal without it poisoning the craftsman, but that doesn't prove she wielded it." Priya traced the hilt with one finger. "Then let's prove something. Take me into the passages today. Show me everything Elara's killer could have used. No more half-truths, Vesper. We're bound now. Your secrets are mine." His storm-gray eyes met hers, gold flaring. For a heartbeat, she thought he would refuse. Instead, he caught her hand, lifting it to his lips in a brief, searing kiss that promised far more than protection. "Very well, Firebrand, but you stay at my side. If anything feels wrong, you tell me instantly." They left the war room with 2 elite guards, massive wolves named Garrick and Thorne's nephew Silas, trailing at a discreet distance. Vesper led her to a seemingly ordinary tapestry in a forgotten alcove on the 3rd level. He pressed his palm to the stone behind it, murmuring ancient words in the old tongue. The wall shimmered and slid aside, revealing a narrow spiral stair descending into darkness. The air inside was cooler, damper, laced with the scent of old stone and forgotten magic. Inked torches ignited automatically along the walls as they descended, casting long shadows that danced like pursuing ghosts. Priya's wolf pressed closer to the surface, ears pricked for any scrape or breath that didn't belong to their group. Vesper's voice echoed softly as they walked. "These passages were built by my great-grandfather to move troops during the Great Pack Wars. They connect every tower, the dungeons, even the crypts beneath the mountain. Elara's killer used the one that opens behind the balcony in your chambers. The blood ward had been weakened that night, as if someone inside had bled on the trigger stone deliberately." Priya shivered. Someone who knew the exact timing of the black moon. They emerged into a wider corridor lined with alcoves holding ancient weapons and dusty scrolls. Past at the end stood a heavy iron door etched with runes. Vesper unlocked it with a drop of his own blood. Beyond lay a small vault room containing 3 identical silver daggers mounted on black velvet, each missing from a set of 7. "One is gone," Vesper said grimly, pointing to the empty slot. "The set was a gift from the Emberfang pack at my mating to Elara. Symbolic. 7 blades for 7 packs. The missing one is the murder weapon. It was never recovered." Priya stepped closer, studying the remaining blades. "Then the killer took it that night and has been using copies or the original. Look at the dust patterns. These 2 have been moved recently, within the last month." Vesper's growl rumbled low. He turned to Garrick. "Check the ward logs. See who accessed this vault since the last black moon." As the guard moved to obey, a faint click echoed from the stairwell behind them. Silas spun, claws extending. "My lord, something's coming." The scrape Priya had heard last night returned, louder now, accompanied by the wet sound of something dragging. From the darkness of the passage they had just left, a figure emerged, hunched, cloaked in black, face hidden. It moved with unnatural speed for something that smelled half-dead. Vesper shoved Priya behind him, shifting partially, claws and fangs lengthening, eyes pure molten gold. "Show yourself." The figure straightened. It was a servant girl, one Priya vaguely recognized from the kitchens. Her eyes were glassy, skin pale as death, throat torn open in a mockery of the Eastern Ridgeguard's wound. Yet she still moved, puppeted by something darker than wolf magic. In her outstretched hand she clutched another note, on blood dripping from her fingers. The possessed girl spoke in a voice that was not her own, rasping, layered with multiple tones. "The Ice Lord thinks he can hide his new toy in secret passages, but I walk them too. Ask him about the night Elara truly died, Priya. Ask him why he lied about the scream." The girl collapsed forward, the note fluttering to the stone floor. Vesper roared and lunged, but the body was already still, the unnatural animation gone. He caught the girl gently, lowering her to the ground with unexpected tenderness. Rage and grief warred on his face. Priya snatched the note before anyone else could touch it. The handwriting matched the previous ones. Vesper watched from the shadows that night. He arrived too late to save her. Or did he? The Heartless Lord has secrets even his new mate doesn't know. Dig deeper. "Light little Firebrand or become the next scream no one hears." Priya's hands shook as she looked up at Vesper. "Is this true? Did you see Elara die?" His face was a mask of ice once more, but cracks spiderwebbed through it. "I found her. The bond pulled me awake moments before. I ran through these very passages. When I reached the chamber, she was already gone. The killer had fled. I held her as she took her last breath. She tried to speak, but only blood came out. The pain in his voice was raw, unguarded. Priya stepped forward and placed her hand on his chest, feeling the thunder of his heart beneath her palm. The mate bond flared brighter, wrapping around them both like a shield. "I believe you," she whispered, "but the killer wants me to doubt you, wants us divided." Vesper covered her hand with his, but claws retracting as he pulled her closer. "Then don't let him win. Stay with me, Priya. Not just for the treaty, not just for survival." His forehead rested against hers, breath mingling. "Stay because this bond feels like the first real thing I've had in 7 years." The kiss that followed was slower than the night before, deep, searching, filled with the weight of shared danger and growing trust. Priya melted into it, her arms sliding around his neck as his hands spanned her waist, pulling her flush against the hard planes of his body. Heat pooled low in her belly, her fractured wolf singing in response to his dominant one. For a few stolen moments, the passages, the dead girl, the killer, all faded. There was only Vesper, the taste of him, the way he growled softly when she nipped his lower lip. They broke apart only when Garrick cleared his throat awkwardly from the doorway. "My lord, the ward logs show Lord Draven accessed the vault 3 nights ago, claimed it was to retrieve an old family relic for the ceremony." Vesper's expression hardened. "My brother, of course." Priya squeezed his hand. "We confront him together. Tonight, at dinner. My next question will be about that night, every detail, no omissions." He nodded, but doubt lingered in his eyes. "Be careful, Firebrand. Draven is charming when he wants to be, and dangerous when cornered." The rest of the day passed in a blur of tightened security and whispered council meetings. Priya trained with a pair of silver-resistant daggers Vesper gifted her. Short, balanced, perfect for a woman who refused to be helpless. He watched her practice with open admiration, decorrecting her stance with hands that lingered longer than necessary, turning each lesson into quiet foreplay that left them both breathing harder. By evening, the Great Hall was set for another intimate dinner, but this time Lord Draven had been invited as family. He arrived in elegant crimson, looking every inch the rogue prince with his sharp smile and Vesper's same dark hair, though his eyes held a colder gleam. "Brother," Draven greeted, clapping Vesper on the shoulder before turning to Priya with a bow that felt mocking. "And the lovely new Lady Vesper. You look radiant. The bond suits you already." Priya smiled sweetly, seating herself between the brothers. "Thank you. Though I hear you've been exploring old family passages lately. Nostalgic?" Draven's smile didn't waver. "Since merely ensuring everything was perfect for the ceremony, one can never be too careful with precious things." The dinner began cordially enough. Roast pheasant, spiced wine, conversation about pack alliances. But as the main course arrived, Priya struck. "Tell me, Lord Draven," she said lightly, twirling her wine glass, "where were you the night Lady Elara died? And why did you access the silver dagger vault 3 nights ago?" The table went still. Vesper watched his brother with predatory focus. Draven laughed, low and easy. "Straight to the throat. I like her, brother." He leaned back. "I was in the Northern Territories negotiating with Stormhowl that night. Witnesses aplenty. As for the vault, I retrieved Mother's old moonstone amulet. It was meant to be a gift for the new bride. Ask Maestra Thorn. She saw me take it." He produced a delicate silver chain with a glowing moonstone from his pocket and slid it across the table to Priya. "For you, my lady. May it protect you better than it did Elara." The stone pulsed warmly in her palm. Innocent, beautiful. Yet something about Draven's easy charm set her teeth on edge. Vesper's voice cut like a blade. "You will submit to a truth-scent interrogation tomorrow, brother. No exceptions." Draven's eyes darkened. If you doubt your own blood, Vesper, then the killer has already won. Tension crackled. Priya slipped the moonstone into her pocket, deciding to have it tested later. As dessert was served, a servant burst in, pale and shaking. "My lord, another body in the crypts. This one. It's one of the emissaries. Lady Seraphine's personal guard. Throat torn. One note pinned with the same silver blade." Vesper stood so fast his chair crashed backward. "Seal the fortress! No one leaves!" But as they rushed toward the crypts, Priya felt the mate bond flare with sudden, sharp warning. She glanced back at the dining table. Draven was smiling, and in the shadows behind him, for just a second, she thought she saw a second silver dagger glinting at his belt, identical to the murder weapon. The crypts were cold and echoing, lined with the tombs of past lords. The dead guard lay sprawled across an ancient sarcophagus, the note addressed once more to Priya. "You're getting warmer, Firebrand, but warmth can burn. Ask Vesper why he truly failed to save Elara that night. The answer might break your new little heart before I do." Vesper read it over her shoulder, his body rigid against hers. Priya turned in his arms, cupping his face. "Whatever the truth is, we face it together," she whispered. "No more ice between us." He kissed her fiercely there among the dead, a desperate claim that tasted of fear and longing. Together, he vowed against her lips. Yet as they sealed the crypts and doubled the guards, Priya couldn't shake the feeling that the killer wasn't just outside their circle. He was already inside it, laughing, charming, and sharpening the blade for the moment when trust would become the deadliest weapon of all. Chapter 5. The crypt's chill still clung to Priya's skin as she and Vesper ascended the spiral stairs, their fingers intertwined in silent promise. But the moment they stepped into the upper corridor, every torch flame guttered and died at once, plunging the fortress into absolute blackness. In the sudden dark, a soft, mocking laugh echoed from somewhere above, feminine, familiar, and impossibly close, followed by the unmistakable click of a silver dagger being drawn from its sheath. Was it Seraphine striking from the shadows, or had the killer just lured them into the perfect trap where even the mate bond couldn't save them? Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where passion and peril entwine tighter with every heartbeat, and no one is truly safe. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the twist that will leave you gasping. The darkness lasted only seconds before emergency runes flared to life along the walls, bathing everything in sickly green light. Vesper's claws were already fully extended, his body angled protectively in front of Priya. The mate bond pulsed with shared adrenaline, feeding her his heightened senses, every scent sharpened, every sound amplified. "That laugh," Priya whispered, heart hammering. "It sounded like Seraphine." Vesper growled low, or someone mimicking her to sow doubt. "Stay close." They moved swiftly toward the main halls, Garrick and Silas rejoining them with drawn blades. Servants and guards scrambled through the corridors, relighting torches and checking every shadow. By the time they reached the war room, Maestra Thorne was already there, her usually composed face etched with strain. "Another incident, my lord," she reported. "Lady Seraphine's personal guard was not the only victim tonight. Her daughter, young Lady Mira, has vanished from her guest quarters. No signs of struggle, but a single silver wolf hair was left on her pillow." Vesper's jaw tightened. "Seraphine will accuse me of using the disappearance to eliminate a rival. This is escalating too fast." Priya's mind raced. "Or the killer took Mira to frame you, or to use her as leverage. We need to search the passages again, but this time with the Blood Ward logs. And I want to question Draven myself, under truth scent if he refuses." Vesper studied her, pride and worry warring in his storm-gray eyes. The gold flecks brightened as the bond hummed warmer between them. "You're becoming dangerous, Firebrand. I like it." They summoned Draven to the war room under guard. He arrived looking mildly annoyed rather than guilty, still wearing the crimson from dinner, the moonstone amulet now hanging openly around his neck on a matching chain. "Interrupting a perfectly good brandy for more accusations, brother?" Draven drawled, dropping into a chair. "And the lovely mate joins the interrogation. How romantic." Priya stepped forward before Vesper could speak. She placed the moonstone amulet he had given her on the table, now tested by the fortress alchemist and found clean. "This was thoughtful, but tell me truthfully, why did you really access the dagger vault 3 nights ago, and where were you when the lights died just now?" Draven's easy smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Then he leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Truth sent me, if you must. I accessed the vault for the amulet, as I said, Mother's gift. As for the lights, I was in my chambers reading old treaties, alone. The laugh you heard, perhaps the wind playing tricks, or someone who wants you jumping at shadows. The truth scent, a subtle magical mist released by one of the advisors, swirled around him. It remained clear, no darkening to indicate lies. Yet Priya's wolf instinct screamed that something was off. The bond with Vesper whispered the same doubt. Vesper dismissed him with a curt nod, but as Draven passed Priya, he paused and murmured just for her ears. "Be careful who you trust with your heart, little Firebrand. Ice can melt, or it can freeze you solid." The words lingered like frost as he left. Hours later, after fruitless searches and heightened patrols, Priya and Vesper retreated to a private solar overlooking the moonlit valley. The black moon had waned, but tension remained thick as smoke. Servants brought mulled wine and a simple meal, then vanished at Vesper's command. Alone at last, Priya turned to him. "The killer is playing us against each other. Draven, Seraphine, Kale, any of them could be using the passages, but the laugh tonight, it felt personal. Female." Vesper poured wine for them both, then pulled her into his lap on the wide window seat, his arms encircling her waist with possessive gentleness. The contact ignited the mate bond, sending warm sparks dancing along her skin. "You're thinking like a hunter now. I see why the lottery chose you. Your wolf may be fractured, but it's sharper than most." Priya relaxed against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Tell me the rest about the night Elara died, the parts you've held back. No more secrets." He was quiet for a long moment, his breath stirring her hair. When he spoke, the words came heavy. "I didn't just find her. The bond screamed in pain before I woke. I ran the passages, but I was delayed. A section had been collapsed with a minor cave-in, deliberate, I think now. It cost me minutes. When I reached the chamber, Elara was still alive, barely. She whispered one word before she died. Brother. Priya sat up straighter, turning to face him. Draven? Or someone she mistook for him in the dark. She was fading fast. I held her, tried to staunch the wound, but the silver had already done its work. The killer must have heard me coming and fled through the balcony. I chased the scent trail, but it vanished at the ridge, masked perfectly. The grief in his voice was quieter now, tempered by the new warmth between them. Priya cupped his face, thumbs brushing his cheekbones. You blame yourself. Every day. His hands slid up her back, pulling her closer until their foreheads touched. But with you, it feels different. You fight back. You don't let the ice win. You make me want to live again, Priya, not just rule. The confession cracked the last of his walls. She kissed him softly at first, then deeper, pouring her own growing feelings into it. Vesper responded with a low growl, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pressed her hips against him. Heat flared between them, urgent and undeniable. Her nightrobe slipped from one shoulder as his mouth trailed to her neck, teeth grazing the sensitive skin where a mate mark would eventually go. Priya gasped, her fractured wolf surging forward, claws lightly pricking his shoulders in response. They moved together on the window seat, clothes loosening, touches growing bolder, exploring, learning. I'd healing 7 years of loneliness with every caress. Vesper was reverent and fierce all at once, whispering her name like a prayer against her skin. For the first time, the fortress felt like sanctuary rather than cage. Yet even in passion, danger lingered. As they lay tangled afterward, breathless and glowing, a new sound drifted through the cracked window. A child's voice, faint and terrified, calling Priya's name from the forest below. "Mira," Priya whispered, bolting upright. "It's Seraphine's daughter." Vesper was already dressing, claws out. "It's a trap." But Priya was pulling on her leathers. "We can't ignore it. If she's alive, she's proof the killer is toying with all of us." They rode out with a small elite team, Garrick, Silas, and 2 others, under the cover of clouded moonlight. The forest was unnaturally quiet, a pines whispering secrets. The mate bond guided them like a compass, Vesper's power shielding Priya as they tracked the voice deeper into the trees. At a small clearing, they found Mira, bound to a tree, gagged, eyes wide with terror. No visible wounds, but a fresh note pinned to her cloak. "Warm enough yet, Firebrand? The girl lives because I allow it. Bring the Ice Lord alone to the old moon shrine at midnight tomorrow, or the next scream will be yours. Come with anyone else, and Mira dies slowly while you watch." Priya freed the girl gently, wrapping her in her own cloak. Mira clung to her, sobbing. "A woman, cloaked. She said you would understand. She said the Lord's heart breaks twice." As they hurried back to the fortress with the rescued child, Vesper's face was grim. "Seraphine will claim we staged this. Or worse, she might be the one behind it, sacrificing her own blood for power." Priya held Mira close, the girl's tears soaking her shoulder. "Or the killer is someone we haven't suspected yet, someone who knows every weakness." Back in the safety of the walls, healers took Mira while Seraphine arrived in a storm of accusations, her auburn hair wild, eyes blazing. "You took my daughter to weaken me. The Emberfang pack will not stand for this." Vesper faced her coldly. "Your daughter was returned alive. Be grateful, and submit to questioning or leave my lands." The standoff crackled with threat until Priya stepped between them. "Enough. We all want the killer caught. Work with us or the packs fracture further." Seraphine's gaze flicked to Priya with something unreadable, hatred or reluctant respect. She finally nodded once. "See, for Mira. But if I find proof you orchestrated this, Ice Lord, blood will answer blood." As the night deepened, Priya and Vesper stood on the balcony of their shared chambers, now truly shared, the bed remade with fresh linens and stronger wards. He pulled her back against his chest, arms wrapped around her, chin resting on her head. "Tomorrow at midnight," he murmured. "I should go alone to the shrine." "No." Priya turned in his arms, fierce. "We go together. No more lone hunts. The bond makes us stronger." He kissed her forehead, then her lips, slow and deep, the passion from earlier reigniting into quiet promise. "Together, then. But if it's a trap, you run. Promise me." "I promise nothing that leaves you behind." Their night was filled with stolen touches and whispered plans, the mate bond weaving tighter with every shared breath. Yet as dawn approached, Priya slipped from his sleeping embrace to check on Mira in the healing wing. The girl was awake, clutching the moonstone amulet Draven had given Priya earlier, somehow transferred during the rescue. Mira's small voice trembled. The cloaked woman. She looked like Lady Seraphine, but her eyes were wrong. Gold like Lord Vesper's. And she whispered something before she left me. "Tell the Firebrand the brother isn't the only one with secrets. The first mate chose wrong." Priya's blood ran cold. Elara had chosen wrong? She returned to their chambers just as Vesper stirred, reaching for her instinctively. She crawled back into his arms, but sleep evaded her. The killer wasn't just hunting her. They were rewriting history, turning love into the ultimate weapon, and forcing Priya to question whether the mate bond blooming between her and Vesper was salvation, or the killer's most elegant trap yet.
Chapter 6. The moon shrine stood ancient and forgotten at the edge of the sacred ridge, its marble pillars cracked and overgrown with night-blooming vines that seemed to pulse with their own faint silver light. Priya and Vesper approached alone under a veiled sky, the mate bond thrumming like a live wire between them, when a sudden wind carried the unmistakable scent of fresh blood mixed with Myra's terror. From the shadows behind the central altar, a cloaked figure stepped forward. Not Seraphine, not Draven, but someone whose voice whispered Priya's name with intimate venom. You should have come alone, Firebrand. Now watch what happens when you trust the Ice Lord too deeply. The figure raised a hand, and the ground beneath Vesper's feet began to crack open, revealing a pit lined with silver spikes that glinted like waiting fangs. One wrong move, and the bond that had just begun to heal him would become the instrument of his agonizing death. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where desire and deception collide in ways that will keep you up all night, and every secret has teeth. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the revelation that changes everything. Priya's heart slammed against her ribs as the ground groaned and split wider beneath Vesper. Silver spikes rose from the pit like deadly petals, their edges already glistening with some alchemical poison that made her wolf recoil. The cloaked figure stood motionless on the far side of the altar, hood low, only the lower half of a pale jaw visible. "Vesper, don't move," Priya shouted, grabbing his arm. The mate bond flared hot with his controlled panic and her own rising fury. The figure laughed softly, the same feminine, mocking sound they had heard in the corridor the night before. "Smart girl. But the trap was never meant for him alone. It's for both of you. Step any closer and the spikes release silver mist. Stay back and I walk away with the truth you're desperate for." Vesper's claws lengthened, gold flooding his eyes. "Show yourself, coward. Or I'll tear that hood from your corpse." The figure tilted its head. Such fire from the heartless lord. "Tell me, Priya, has he told you yet why Elara really whispered brother as she died? Or how he was the one who collapsed the passage to delay his own rescue?" Priya felt Vesper stiffen beside her. The bond carried a spike of raw pain from him, guilt. Not guilt of murder, but something heavier. She squeezed his hand once hard. "We faced this together. Remember?" He gave a curt nod, but his jaw was locked. Priya took one careful step forward, keeping her voice steady. "You want to talk? Then talk. But if you hurt him, I swear by every moon in the sky I will hunt you through every pack until there's nothing left but ashes." The cloaked figure reached up and slowly lowered the hood. It was not Seraphine. It was Maester Thorn. The steward's face was calm, almost serene, except for the feverish gold glittering unnaturally in her usually cool eyes. Her hair was unbound, streaked with premature silver, and a thin scar ran from the corner of her mouth to her ear, new, still healing. "Surprised?" Thorn said softly. "You shouldn't be. I have walked these halls longer than either of you have drawn breath. I know every passage, every ward, every secret the Ice Lord thinks he buried." Vesper's growl vibrated through the night. "Thorn, you served my family for 3 generations. Why? Because your family took everything from mine." Thorn's voice cracked with old rage. "Your father executed my mate for a crime he didn't commit, framed by Draven's ambition even then. I waited. I watched. When Elara arrived, she was kind to me. Too kind. She discovered the truth about my mate's death and promised to help expose it. But you," she pointed a trembling finger at Vesper, "you were too consumed with your wars and your pride. You wouldn't listen. So I silenced her before she could speak." Priya's stomach twisted. "You killed Elara." "I did what was necessary." Thorn's eyes flicked to Priya. "But then the lottery chose you. Another gentle soul who might crack the Ice Lord open. I couldn't allow another bride to soften him. Not when his heart finally breaking is the only justice left." The ground cracked wider. A silver spike grazed Vesper's boot, hissing on contact. He didn't flinch, but Priya felt the burn through the bond. "Stop this," Priya demanded. "Mira is safe. The packs are watching. If you kill us here, the 7 packs will tear each other apart and you'll have nothing." Thorn smiled thinly. I don't want the packs. I want him to suffer the way I suffered. Watching the person he's beginning to love die slowly, knowing he failed again. Just like with Elara. Vesper's voice dropped to lethal velvet. You think I love her already? You're wrong. But even if I did, you will never touch her. The lie tasted bitter on the bond. Priya knew it for what it was, protection. But it still stung. Thorn raised her hand again. Hidden runes on the altar began to glow. Then prove it. Choose, Lord Vesper. Step into the pit willingly, and I let Priya walk away unharmed. Refuse, and the silver mist takes you both. Slowly. Painfully. While I watch. Priya's wolf surged violently. Claws burst from her fingertips for the first time without pain, her fractured shift fighting to complete. She snarled, the sound raw and powerful. You'll have to kill me first. Thorn's eyes widened slightly at the display of Priya's emerging strength. Interesting. The fractured one has teeth after all. In that split second of distraction, Vesper moved. He shoved Priya backward with careful force, then launched himself across the altar in a blur of shadow and fury. Thorn raised the silver dagger, Elara's original blade. Priya realized with horror, but Vesper was faster. He slammed into her, driving her to the ground. The dagger flew from her hand, skittering across the marble. The ground beneath them shuddered violently as the trap fully activated. Silver mist began to rise from the pit in shimmering clouds. Priya scrambled forward, ignoring the burn on her lungs. She grabbed the fallen dagger and lunged at the runestone on the altar, slamming the blade's hilt against it with all her strength. The runes cracked. The mist faltered. Thorn fought like a cornered wolf, claws raking Vesper's side, drawing blood. But the mate bond fed Priya's strength. She reached them and drove her knee into Thorn's ribs, then pressed the silver dagger to the steward's throat, not deep enough to kill, but enough to still her. Enough. Priya shouted. It's over. Thorn laughed wetly, blood on her teeth. Over? This was only the beginning. I have allies. The killer you fear isn't one person. It's a shadow woven through every pack. And the next strike will come from the one you least expect. Vesper pinned Thorn's arms, his breathing ragged, blood soaking his tunic. Who? Name them. Thorn's eyes met Priya's, gold flickering wildly. Ask your precious mate why Elara really chose him over Draven all those years ago. Ask him about the night he stole his brother's promised bride. The first betrayal started long before I ever lifted a blade. Vesper's face went ashen. The silver mist was dissipating, but the damage was done. Distant howls rose from the fortress. Alarms being raised as Garrick and the others finally broke through the outer wards. Thorn smiled one last time. Enjoy your victory, Firebrand. The ice is already cracking, and when it shatters completely, you'll both drown in the flood. She went limp as guards swarmed the shrine, but Priya knew the words would haunt them. Back at the fortress, healers worked on Vesper's silver burns while Priya paced the healing wing, the mate bond raw and pulsing with shared pain. Thorn was locked in the deepest dungeons, wards reinforced with Priya's own blood at Vesper's insistence. When the healers finally left them alone, Vesper caught Priya's hand and pulled her onto the narrow cot beside him. His side was bandaged, but the gold in his eyes was soft now, exhausted. She lied about some things, he said quietly. But not all. Elara was originally promised to Draven in a political match. I challenged him for her. Not out of love, but because I believed I could protect her better from the coming wars. She chose me freely in the end. Draven never forgave either of us. Priya brushed damp hair from his forehead. And the collapsed passage? I didn't cause it. But I was arrogant. I ignored warnings about unrest in the lower ranks. Thorn used that arrogance against me. He turned his face into her palm. I should have told you everything sooner. No more secrets, Priya. I swear it on the bond. She leaned down and kissed him gently, tasting salt and blood and relief. The kiss deepened slowly, turning into something tender and healing amid the pain. His hand slid to her waist, pulling her closer despite his injuries, the mate bond wrapping around them like a warm shield. "I'm not running," she whispered against his lips. "Not from you. Not from this." For the first time, Vesper smiled, small, real, and only for her. "Good. Because I'm done being heartless." "You've thawed too much of me already, Firebrand." Yet as they lay together, the fortress alarms finally quieting, a new message arrived via Raven from Whispering Pines. Priya's father had received another carved warning on his wall, this one in fresh blood. The steward was only the pawn. The true game begins now. Tell your daughter the brother still hungers for what was stolen, and the firebrand will burn with him. Draven. The note was signed with a single silver wolf hair. Priya looked at Vesper, the mate bond singing with new resolve even as fear tried to creep in. Thorn had been caught, but the shadow she warned of was still moving closer, smarter, and wearing the face of family. And somewhere in the fortress, another silver dagger waited for the moment when love would make them both vulnerable enough to strike. Chapter 7. The raven's message lay crumpled on the healing cot between them, the silver wolf hair still glinting mockingly under lantern light. Priya traced the carved warning with trembling fingers while Vesper's bandaged side rose and fell too quickly, the mate bond carrying echoes of his pain and a deeper, colder fury. Then the lantern flames flickered wildly as if blown by an invisible wind, and from the corridor outside came the soft click of claws on stone. Too light for a guard, too deliberate for any ordinary wolf. A low voice, unmistakably Draven's, drifted through the heavy door like smoke. "Sleep well, brother. The firebrand's warmth won't last the night, and neither will you if you keep trusting the wrong blood." Priya's head snapped toward the door. Vesper was already rising despite the healer's protests, claws sliding free with a metallic rasp. The mate bond surged between them, feeding her his rage and her own rising determination. "He wouldn't dare attack here," Vesper growled, but doubt threaded through the words. "Not with Thorn freshly chained and the fortress on full alert." "Unless he's no longer working alone," Priya replied, slipping from the cot and grabbing the silver dagger she now kept strapped to her thigh. Thorn said the killer was a shadow woven through every pack. What if Draven is only one thread? A sharp knock sounded, 3 rapid beats followed by 2 slower ones. The signal Garrick used. Vesper nodded once. Priya positioned herself at his uninjured side as the door opened. Garrick entered, face pale. "My lord, Lord Draven requests an immediate audience. He claims he is proof that Maestro Thorn was not acting entirely alone. He also brought someone with him." Vesper's eyes narrowed to slits. "Who?" "Alpha Kale of Stormhell. Unarmed, under truce banner." Priya felt the floor tilt. Kale, one of the original 3 suspects. Walking openly into the heart of the fortress hours after Draven's veiled threat? The timing screamed trap. Vesper exchanged a single glance with her. The bond hummed with shared resolve. Bring them. But search them both again. And double the guard outside this room. Minutes later Draven and Kale were escorted in. Draven looked composed, almost regretful, his crimson cloak swapped for simpler black. Kale was broader, silver-streaked hair tied back, his storm-gray eyes eerily similar to Vesper's, scanning the room with barely concealed hostility. Draven spoke first, voice smooth. "Brother, I heard about the confrontation at the Moon Shrine. Thorn's betrayal cuts deep. But she was only the blade. The hand that guided her belongs to someone higher." Kale stepped forward, dropping a sealed scroll onto the cot. "This was delivered to my camp an hour ago. It bears your seal, Vesper, and orders the execution of my border scouts, framed as my own treachery. I did not send it. Someone wants war between Storehowl and the Central Packs." Vesper broke the seal and read. His expression darkened. "The handwriting is close to mine, but the ink is wrong Emberfang dye. And the seal, cracked in the exact place mine was damaged last winter." Draven leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Convenient, isn't it? Thorn in the dungeons, and suddenly forged orders appear. I told you the shadow runs deeper. I came tonight to offer alliance, not accusation. Help me root out the rest of Thorn's network, and I will submit to any test you demand." Priya watched both men carefully. The mate bond whispered caution from Vesper, but her own instincts prickled at Draven's too perfect remorse. Kale, however, radiated raw anger that felt genuine. She spoke up. Why bring Kale into this? He was on the original suspect list. Kale's gaze snapped to her. Because someone tried to frame me for the Eastern Ridge killing. The silver hair left on the guard's body? It was from my pack's sacred winter coat, only alphas carry it. But I was in council with my elders that night. Witnesses. Draven smiled thinly. See? We all have reasons to want the true killer found. Even me. Elara's death hurt more than you know, brother. She was promised to me once. I loved her in my own way. Her murder stole that future. The words landed heavy. Priya felt Vesper's flinch through the bond. Old jealousy, old guilt. A tense silence stretched. Finally, Vesper nodded once. Temporary alliance. You both submit to truth scent and blood ward interrogation at dawn. In return, I grant you limited access to the war room maps and the passage logs. But one wrong move and the truce ends in blood. Draven inclined his head. Fair. Kale grunted agreement, though his eyes lingered on Priya a second too long, assessing, almost respectful. As the two men were escorted out under heavy guard, Priya turned to Vesper. You don't trust them. Not for a heartbeat. He pulled her gently back onto the cot, wincing at the pull on his bandages. But dividing them might force the real traitor to act. And right now we need every pair of eyes hunting the shadow Thorn mentioned. Priya rested her head on his uninjured shoulder, the mate bond wrapping them in quiet warmth. Then we use them. But we watch Draven closest. That silver wolf hair on the note to my father, it points straight at him. Vesper's arm tightened around her. Agreed. And Priya, what Thorn said about me stealing Elara. She silenced him with a soft kiss. I don't care about ancient promises. I care about the man who kissed me like I was the first light after 7 years of darkness. The man who's fighting for me now. His eyes softened, gold bleeding into gray. You're thawing me faster than I thought possible, Firebrand. They spent the next hours planning in low voices. Mapping potential allies among the remaining emissaries, identifying which servants had access to the forges, and strengthening the wards on their chambers with Priya's blood mixed into the runes. Between strategies, touches lingered. A brush of fingers became a slow caress. A shared glance turned into a deep, hungry kiss that left them both breathing harder, the mate bond singing with growing desire and trust. By the time dawn crept over the mountains, they had stolen moments of passion tempered by pain, Vesper careful of his wounds, Priya fierce and tender in equal measure. In the quiet after, he traced the line of her collarbone with reverent fingers. I never expected this, he murmured. A lottery bride who would fight beside me instead of cowering. Priya smiled against his chest. I never expected the heartless lord to have a heart worth fighting for. The interrogation at dawn was brutal but necessary. Both Draven and Kale passed the truth scent with only minor shadows, Draven centered on old resentment toward Vesper, Kale's on long-held ambition. No direct lies about the murders. Yet as the day wore on, new cracks appeared. A report arrived from the Emberfang delegation. Lady Seraphine had fled the fortress under cover of the previous night's chaos, taking 3 of her most loyal guards and leaving a single note for Priya. It read, I know who the shadow truly serves. Meet me alone at the river fork tomorrow at dusk if you want the name that will end this. Bring the Ice Lord and I vanish forever. Come alone and I give you the weapon that can kill even an alpha. Seraphine's seal was genuine. The handwriting matched letters Priya had seen earlier. Vesper crushed the note in his fist. Trap. Or desperation, Priya countered. She left her daughter behind. Mira is still here under our protection. A mother doesn't abandon her child unless she's terrified. They debated through the afternoon. In the end they compromised. Priya and Vesper would ride to the river fork with a hidden escort, Garrick and Silas concealed in the tree line, but Priya would approach the meeting point first, alone, to draw Seraphine out. As evening fell, they prepared in their chambers. Vesper helped Priya strap on hidden blades, his hands lingering at her waist. The mate bond pulsed with worry and fierce protectiveness. "If anything feels wrong, you signal," he said, voice rough. "I will burn the forest down to reach you." Priya rose on her toes and kissed him deeply, pouring every ounce of her growing love into it. "And if it's real, we finally get a name. Together, remember." They rode out under gathering storm clouds, the black moon's influence still lingering in restless howls from the distant peaks. At the river fork, Priya dismounted and walked forward alone, silver dagger ready at her side. Seraphine emerged from the trees, cloak drawn tight, face gaunt with exhaustion. No guards visible. "You came," she breathed. "Good. Listen carefully. The shadow isn't Thorn. She was only the first move. The true master is." A arrow whistled from the darkness, striking Seraphine in the shoulder. She staggered, gasping. Priya lunged forward to catch her as Vesper's roar split the night and hidden guards charged from the trees. But it was too late. Seraphine clutched Priya's arm, blood bubbling on her lips. "Draven, not alone, the one you least expect. Myra's father." Her eyes widened in shock, then went glassy. Another arrow flew, aimed straight at Priya's heart. Vesper appeared in a blur, tackling her to the ground as the arrow buried itself in the earth where she had stood. His body covered hers protectively, the mate bond blazing with terror and love. Chaos erupted, howls, steel clashing, wolves shifting in the underbrush. When the dust settled, Seraphine lay dead, the arrow in her shoulder coated with the same silver poison that had killed Elara. No sign of the archer. But clutched in Seraphine's dying hand was a small silver locket. Inside was a miniature portrait of a young Mira. And standing beside the child, arm around Seraphine's shoulders, was a face Priya recognized with ice-cold dread. Lord Draven. Not as uncle, as father. The note tucked behind the portrait read in Seraphine's elegant script. "Draven fathered Mira in secret. He used me to get close to Vesper. He killed Elara because she discovered the affair and threatened to expose him. Thorn was his tool. But there is one more, the one even Draven fears. Find the fractured wolf who walks in two worlds." She is the key. Priya stared at the locket, the mate bond screaming with Vesper shock and betrayal. Draven had a child with Seraphine. Draven had motive layered upon motive. And somewhere in the 7 packs, a fractured wolf who walks in two worlds was still moving unseen, perhaps the same fractured nature Priya herself carried. As Vesper helped her to her feet, blood on his hands from Seraphine's wound, his eyes met hers with raw vulnerability. "Priya, if my own brother orchestrated all of this." She gripped his face, forcing him to look at her. "Then we end it. Together. No more ice. No more secrets. We burn the shadow out." He kissed her fiercely there on the bloodied riverbank, the storm finally breaking overhead and washing the world in cold rain. But as lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the distant fortress, Priya caught a glimpse of movement on the battlements, a lone figure watching them. Tall, cloaked, eyes glowing gold even from afar. The figure raised a hand in mocking salute before vanishing into shadow. The game was far from over. Draven was only one face of the shadow. And the fractured wolf, the one who walked in two worlds, was coming for the Firebrand who dared to thaw the Ice Lord's heart. Chapter 8. The storm raged on as Priya and Vesper galloped back toward the fortress, rain lashing their faces and thunder masking the thunder of hooves. Seraphine's blood still stained Priya's hands, the silver locket burning like a brand in her pocket. Behind them, Garrick and Silas rode hard to keep pace, but a new sound cut through the downpour, hooves that did not belong to their escort, approaching fast from the eastern ridge. A lone rider emerged from the sheets of rain, cloak streaming, face hidden, and as lightning split the sky, Priya saw the flash of a silver dagger raised high, aimed not at Vesper, but straight at her heart. The rider's eyes glowed with fractured gold, mirroring the wild power surging inside her own chest. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where love and treachery twist tighter than thorns, and every revelation cuts deeper than the last. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the chapter that will leave your pulse racing and your heart aching. They reached the fortress gates just as the mysterious rider vanished back into the storm, swallowed by the trees. Guards swarmed out to meet them, torches sputtering in the rain. Vesper swung down from his horse and pulled Priya into his arms, shielding her from the worst of the weather and any watching eyes. His bandaged side had reopened during the ride, fresh blood mixed with rainwater on his tunic. "Secure every entrance," he ordered Garrick. "No one in or out without my direct word. And bring Lord Draven to the war room now." Inside, the great halls felt colder than ever. Servants hurried to light braziers and fetch dry clothes, but Priya barely noticed. The locket weighed heavy in her palm as they made their way to the war room. Mira had been moved to a more secure chamber with double guards, the child still unaware of her mother's death. Draven arrived minutes later, flanked by two of Vesper's elite wolves. He looked windswept, as if he had been out in the storm himself, but his expression was one of calculated concern. "Brother, you look like death," he said, eyes flicking to Priya. And the lady, covered in blood. "What happened?" Vesper slammed the locket onto the obsidian table. It spun once before stopping, the portrait of Draven and Seraphine facing upward. Draven froze. For the first time, genuine shock cracked his polished mask. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "From Seraphine's dying hand," Priya said coldly. "She named you, Draven. Father of her child. Killer of Elara. Thorn was your tool. Care to explain?" Draven sank into a chair, staring at the locket. Rain dripped from his hair onto the table. Mira is mine. Yes. Seraphine and I. It was brief, passionate. Forbidden. We kept it secret because an alliance with Emberfang through marriage was already planned with you, Vesper, not with me. When Elara discovered the affair, she threatened to expose everything to force a stronger treaty. I panicked. I asked Thorn to silence her, only to silence, not kill. Thorn went further than I ordered. Vesper's claws scraped the table. "You expect us to believe you didn't want Elara dead?" "I loved her once," Draven snapped, gold flashing in his eyes. "More than you ever did. But she chose you. And when she found out about Mira, she saw it as proof I was unfit. She was going to ruin me. So yes, I moved against her. But I never plunged the dagger. Thorn did that. And now Seraphine is dead too, because someone else wants the shadow to swallow us all." Priya studied him, the mate bond feeding her Vesper's turmoil. "Then who is the fractured wolf who walks in two worlds?" Seraphine's last words pointed to someone else. "Someone even you fear." Draven's laugh was bitter. "The fractured ones are rare. Wolves whose shifts are incomplete, unstable, like you, Lady Priya. But there is another. A woman who was cast out from Whispering Pines years ago for losing control during her first shift. She could walk as wolf or human, sometimes both at once. Her name is Elara. She was close to Thorn. And to me once." Vesper's voice dropped dangerously. "You brought a traitor into our home? I thought she was loyal. She disappeared after Elara's death. I assumed she was dead." Draven met Priya's eyes. "But if she's the one riding in storms with silver daggers, then the shadow has teeth sharper than we knew." The war room fell silent except for the crackle of the hearth. Priya felt her own fractured wolf stir restlessly, responding to the mention of another like her. The power that had surged at the moon shrine was still humming under her skin, stronger now, more volatile. Vesper finally spoke. "You will remain under guard, brother. Your chambers searched. Your movements tracked. If Lyra surfaces, you will help us bring her in, or I will assume you are still protecting her." Draven nodded once, defeated. "For Myra's sake. I will help." As Draven was led away, Vesper turned to Priya, pulling her close despite his injuries. "This is spiraling. Draven, Thorn, now Lyra. And your wolf is waking faster because of the bond. I can feel it." Priya leaned into him, letting the mate bond steady her. "Then help me control it. Train me tonight. If Lyra is like me, fractured but powerful, I need to be ready." They retreated to a private training hall deep in the fortress, the storm still howling outside. Vesper, moving carefully around his wounds, guided her through breathing exercises and partial shifts. Priya's claws emerged smoothly this time, her eyes flickering between human brown and wolf gold. The bond amplified everything, his strength flowing into her, her fire tempering his ice. Between drills, touches turned intimate. A correction of her stance became a slow caress down her spine. A shared growl during a mock lunge ended with him pinning her gently against the padded wall, kissing her with 7 years of suppressed hunger finally unleashed. Priya responded fiercely, her hands exploring the hard lines of his chest, careful of bandages, but hungry for connection. Their clothes loosened as passion overtook caution, the training hall echoing with soft gasps and low growls. The mate bond blazed, weaving their fractured pieces into something stronger, more whole. In the quiet after, lying tangled on training mats with a blanket thrown over them, Vesper traced lazy circles on her bare shoulder. "You're changing everything, Priya," he murmured. "I thought ruling the packs meant locking my heart away. You've shown me it was never truly gone, just waiting for the right fire to melt the ice." She kissed his jaw. "And you're teaching me that strength doesn't mean suppressing the wolf. It means letting her run beside me." A soft knock interrupted their peace. Silas entered, eyes averted. "My lord, urgent news. Elara has been sighted near the Whispering Pines border." She left a message carved into a tree, addressed to Lady Priya. Vesper tensed. Priya sat up, pulling the blanket around her. "What does it say?" Silas swallowed. "Come home, sister of the fracture. The lottery didn't choose you by chance. Your blood holds the key to ending the Ice Lord's reign. Join me, or watch your new mate die the way Elara did slowly, while he screams your name." Priya's blood ran cold. Sister of the fracture. Elara knew about her past. The painful first shift, the suppression that had nearly broken her. Vesper's arm tightened around her. "It's a lure. You're not going anywhere near Whispering Pines." "But if my blood really is the key," Priya met his eyes, the mate bond humming with shared fear and resolve. "Maybe I was chosen because I can end this. Not as bait, but as the weapon." He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "You are not a weapon. You are my mate. My fire. We face this together, or not at all." They spent the night reinforcing wards and planning a controlled journey to the border, escorted heavily, with Draven under watch. But as dawn broke, another raven arrived, this one from Priya's father in Whispering Pines. The message was short, written in shaky hand. "Priya, my daughter, Elara came to me last night. She says you're her half-sister. Your mother had a secret first mating before me, with a wolf from a fallen pack. Elara carries the same fractured blood. She wants you to awaken fully. She claims Vesper's line is cursed and must end for the packs to be free. Do not trust the Ice Lord completely. The truth is in your blood." Priya stared at the letter, the world tilting. Half-sister. Fractured blood. A curse on Vesper's line. Vesper read over her shoulder, his face hardening into the ice mask she hadn't seen in days. "Lies to divide us. Or truth to save us," Priya whispered, though doubt crept in like frost. The mate bond felt suddenly strained, testing its new warmth. She looked at the man who had thawed for her, who had kissed her like salvation in the training hall. Could she truly trust him if her own blood was tied to his enemy? As they prepared to ride for the border at first light, Priya slipped the silver locket around her neck beside the moonstone amulet. Two faces of the shadow. Two sides of the same broken coin. The fractured wolf was calling her home. And whether Elara was savior or destroyer, the next meeting would force Priya to choose between the blood she was born to and the heart she was learning to love. Chapter 9. The border trees of Whispering Pines rose like silent sentinels as Priya and Vesper rode at the head of their heavily armed escort, the silver locket and moonstone amulet resting cold against Priya's skin beneath her cloak. Elara's carved message still echoed in her mind, sister of the fracture, when a sudden hush fell over the forest. Birds stopped mid-song. The mate bond flared with sharp warning. Then, from the mist between the ancient pines, a woman stepped into their path. Tall, dark-haired like Priya, eyes burning with unstable gold. Elara. But before Vesper could reach for his blade, Elara raised both hands and whispered a single word in the old tongue. Priya's fractured wolf roared to life inside her, claws ripping free, vision sharpening violently as an uncontrollable partial shift tore through her body against her will. "Welcome home, sister," Elara called, voice layered with power. "Now feel what the Ice Lord's bloodline has suppressed in you for years." Vesper's roar of fury was the last thing Priya heard before the world blurred into pain and wild, untamed freedom. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where blood calls louder than love, and every awakening comes with a deadly price. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the moment that forces impossible choices between heart and heritage. Priya hit the forest floor on all fours, gasping as fur rippled across her arms in uneven patches, her bones shifting and cracking in a painful dance she had never fully mastered. The fractured shift wasn't complete. Her face remained mostly human, claws long and sharp, legs still bent for running, but not fully wolf. Power surged through her like lightning trapped in glass, wild and exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "Control it," Vesper shouted, leaping from his horse and landing beside her. His own partial shift rippled over him, claws, fangs, eyes pure molten gold, as he tried to reach her through the mate bond. But Elara's whispered word had thrown up a barrier, thin and shimmering like spider silk, blocking the full flow of their connection. Elara stood 20 paces away, unafraid, her own form flickering between woman and wolf in a fluid, controlled way Priya had never seen. "Don't fight it, sister. Our mother was a fractured wolf too, stronger than any alpha because she refused to suppress what the packs called weakness. Vesper's ancestors cursed our bloodline when they hunted the old packs into extinction. His line stole our power and locked it away. I'm here to set you free." Priya snarled, the sound tearing from a throat that was half human. She could feel Vesper's panic and love crashing against the barrier, but Elara's words planted seeds of doubt. Her father's raven message had confirmed it. Elara was half-sister, sharing the same fractured mother. The lottery hadn't been random. It had been engineered, perhaps by the shadow itself, to bring the two fractured daughters together against the Ice Lord. Vesper stepped between them, shielding Priya with his body. "Whatever grudge you hold against my bloodline ends here, Elara. Priya is my mate, bonded in blood and vow. Touch her and I will end you." Elara laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally through the pines. "Your mate? Or your latest cage? Ask her how it feels now that her wolf is waking. Ask her if she still wants to thaw the heart of the wolf who suppressed her kind for generations." Priya forced herself upright, claws digging into the earth for balance. The partial shift burned, but it also sharpened everything: sense, sounds, the rapid beat of Vesper's heart. Through the thinning barrier, she caught fragments of his emotions. Terror that she would turn against him, fierce determination to protect her, and beneath it all, a deepening love that made her chest ache. "I won't be used as a weapon against him," Priya growled, voice rough and dual-toned. "Whatever truth you carry about our mother, it doesn't erase what's happening between us now." Elara's eyes softened for a moment. "Regret? Pity? Then let me show you the proof. Come with me alone to the old mother tree. The one where our mother carved her final warning before Vesper's grandfather hunted her down. See the truth in her own words. Then decide if the Ice Lord deserves your fire or your fangs." Vesper's hand found Priya's, claws carefully sheathed. The mate bond surged stronger as Elara's barrier wavered. "Don't go. It's a trap. She wants to separate us so she can finish what Thorn started." Priya squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin even through the shift. "If I don't face this, the doubt will poison us anyway. I need to know who I truly am, Vesper. And I need you to trust me enough to let me walk into the dark." His jaw clenched, gold eyes searching hers. Finally, he nodded once, reluctant. "I will wait at the edge of the glade. One howl from you, and I tear the forest apart to reach you. The escort stays hidden but ready." Elara smiled approvingly. "Wise choice, Lord Vesper. For now." Priya followed her half-sister deeper into Whispering Pines, the partial shift making every step feel both powerful and unsteady. The trees grew older, their trunks carved with ancient runes that glowed faintly at their passage. At the center of a small glade stood the mother tree, massive, silver-barked, its roots twisting like veins across the forest floor. Elara pressed her palm to the trunk. A section of bark slid aside, revealing a hollow containing a preserved scroll and a small, blood-stained amulet identical to the moonstone Draven had given Priya. "Read it," Elara said softly. "Our mother's last words." Priya took the scroll with trembling claws. The handwriting was elegant but hurried, stained with old tears and blood. "My daughters, if you read this, the curse has not yet broken. Vesper's line carries the shadow magic that binds fractured wolves, suppressing our power so they can rule unchallenged. I loved one of them once, in secret. He promised to end the suppression. Instead, he betrayed me to his father. I escaped with you, Priya, still unborn, and Elara already growing strong. But they hunted me. Remember, the mate bond with an Ice Lord will awaken your wolf fully, but it will also drain your fractured power into him, making him stronger while you fade. Break the bond before the next black moon or become another ghost in his fortress. Choose freedom. Choose each other. The shadow is not one man, it is the entire line. End it." Priya's claws pierced the scroll as she finished reading. The words burned. The mate bond, beautiful and terrifying, had been weaponized from the start? Was that why her wolf felt stronger near Vesper? Not love, but theft? Elara touched her shoulder gently. "I don't want to kill him, sister. I want justice. Help me weaken the curse. Together we can free every fractured wolf in the 7 packs. You don't have to choose him over blood. You can choose both by making him release the suppression." Priya looked back toward the edge of the glade where Vesper waited, a dark silhouette against the trees. The mate bond pulled at her, warm and real, filled with his worry and love. But the scroll's words planted icy doubt. "I need time," she whispered, "to test the truth." Elara nodded. "Then test it. Spend one night with him under the full influence of your awakened wolf. See if the bond drains you or lifts you. If it lifts you without cost, I will stand down. If it begins to drain, you know what must be done." They returned to Vesper together. Priya's partial shift had stabilized somewhat, though fur still dusted her arms and her eyes remained gold-flecked. Vesper pulled her into his arms the moment she was close, burying his face in her hair. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice rough. "Not physically." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "But there are truths here that could break us, Vesper. I need you to be honest tonight. No more hidden history about the fractured wolves or your family's old curses." He searched her face, then nodded. "Tonight. In our chambers at the border outpost. Everything." The escort made camp at an old fortified outpost on the Whispering Pines side of the border. Draven remained under watch in the central fortress, but messages flew by Raven. Mira was safe. Thorn still silent in the dungeons. That night, after the escort settled and guards were posted, Priya and Vesper retreated to the Lord's chamber, a simple stone room with a large bed, hearth fire, and heavy furs. The storm had passed, leaving a clear sky and a nearly full moon that tugged at Priya's newly awakened wolf. They bathed together in the adjacent hot spring pool, the steam rising around them. The intimacy was different now, charged with uncertainty as well as desire. Vesper washed the forest dirt from her skin with careful hands, his touches reverent. Priya traced the healing wounds on his side, feeling the mate bond hum stronger in the quiet. Later, wrapped only in furs on the bed, she told him everything: the scroll, their mother's warning, Elara's offer. Vesper listened without interruption, his face growing paler with each revelation. "My grandfather did hunt fractured wolves," he admitted quietly, pulling her closer so her head rested on his chest. He feared their unstable power could challenge the 7-pack treaty. "He bound their shifts with shadow magic passed down through our line. I was taught it was for peace. I never questioned it until your wolf started waking, and I felt how beautiful it was, not dangerous." Priya lifted her head. "And the draining?" Is the bond stealing my power? Vesper's eyes darkened with pain. I don't know. The bond is ancient. Some texts say it balances power between mates. Others claim the stronger wolf can draw from the weaker. I have never felt stronger since bonding with you, Priya. But if it is draining you, I will break it myself before I let it harm you. The confession cracked the last of her doubt. She kissed him slowly, deeply, the awakened wolf making every sensation sharper, more vivid. Their lovemaking that night was different, raw, emotional, almost desperate. Priya's partial shift flickered in waves, heightening pleasure and connection until she felt they were truly one being, fractured pieces fitting together. Vesper moved with her, whispering her name like a vow, his hands and mouth worshipping every inch as if afraid she might vanish with the dawn. Afterward, as they lay tangled and breathless, Priya tested the bond deliberately. She reached for her wolf and pushed power toward Vesper instead of pulling. The mate bond glowed brighter, warmer, with no sense of loss. If anything, her own strength felt steadier. It's not draining, she whispered against his lips. It's balancing. Elara was wrong about that part, or lying to turn me against you. Vesper kissed her forehead, relief flooding the bond. Then we face her together tomorrow. No more separation. But as the moon climbed higher, a new sound drifted through the outpost window, a soft, familiar howl. Elara's. Followed by screams from the outer guards. Priya and Vesper bolted upright. The door burst open. Garrick staggered in, blood pouring from a gash across his chest. Elara, she brought others. Fractured wolves from the old packs. They're attacking the outpost. And Raven just arrived. He's escaped the fortress. He's riding here with armed wolves, claiming he's coming to save you both from the shadow. Chaos erupted outside, howls, steel, the roar of shifting wolves. Vesper pulled Priya to her feet, pressing a dagger into her hand. Stay with me. We end this tonight. They rushed into the fray. Elara fought at the head of a small band of fractured wolves, their shifts unstable but devastatingly powerful. Draven appeared moments later on the ridge, leading a contingent of Vesper's own guards who had apparently switched sides. 2 fronts. 2 betrayals. Priya's wolf surged fully into the fight. She moved with newfound grace, claws slashing, the mate bond feeding her Vesper's strength while she lent him her wild speed. Together they were a storm, ice and fire, heart and fong. In the heart of the battle, Elara cornered Priya against the mother tree. Join me, sister. Elara shouted over the din, we can free our kind. Priya hesitated for one heartbeat, blood calling to blood, then shook her head. My kind includes him now. The bond isn't a curse. It's our choice. She lunged. Their clash was brutal, sister against sister, fractured power meeting fractured power. But Priya had the mate bond. She had Vesper's steadying presence at her back even as he fought Draven nearby. Elara fell back, bleeding, eyes wide with betrayal. You chose the Ice Lord over blood. I chose love over hate, Priya answered, standing over her. Draven was subdued moments later by Vesper's loyal wolves. He spat blood and curses, but offered no final confession. As the surviving fractured wolves retreated into the trees with Elara, the outpost fell quiet except for the moans of the wounded. Vesper found Priya beneath the mother tree, breathing hard, her partial shift receding slowly. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her fiercely amid the aftermath. You fought for us, he whispered. Even when blood called. Because you're my home now, she replied, clinging to him. Not the fortress. Not the packs. You. Yet as healers arrived and prisoners were bound, a final raven landed on the mother tree branch above them. The message was from Maestra Thorn in the dungeons, written in her own blood before the guards could stop her. The shadow has 3 heads. Elara and Draven were only 2. The third wears the face of the one you trust most. Look to the one who rescued the child. Mira is the key. The game ends when the child's blood awakens the true curse. Priya's blood turned to ice. Mira. Draven and Seraphine's secret daughter carried blood from both sides of the shadow. And the one who had rescued her from the tree in the forest? Priya herself. The mate bond hummed with sudden, terrible possibility. Had saving the child been exactly what the shadow wanted all along? Vesper held her tighter as the realization dawned on them both. The final head of the shadow was not an enemy. It was the love and choices they had made together. And the next black moon would reveal whether their bond would break the curse, or complete it. Chapter 10. The black moon was still days away, yet its shadow already seemed to press down on the fortress as Priya stood in the dimly lit healing wing, watching Mira sleep. The child's small chest rose and fell peacefully, the silver locket now resting on the pillow beside her. Vesper's arm was a steady anchor around Priya's waist, but the mate bond thrummed with fresh unease after Thorn's bloody final message. Then, without warning, Myra's eyes snapped open. Pure, unstable gold like fractured moonlight and a soft, childish voice that was not entirely hers whispered, "The third head wakes when the moon turns black. Thank you for bringing me home, Mother." The words hung in the air as Myra's tiny hand reached out, and Priya felt a sudden, sharp pull through the mate bond, as if something ancient and hungry was trying to drink directly from the fire she had kindled in Vesper's heart. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where the deepest love hides the sharpest fangs and no bond is ever truly safe. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the chapter that will make you question every heartbeat. Priya jerked back, the pull through the mate bond leaving her breathless and cold. Vesper's growl rumbled low as he stepped in front of her, claws already lengthening. Mira sat up slowly, her golden eyes clearing to their usual soft brown, but the echo of that other voice lingered in the room like smoke. "Mira?" Priya whispered, heart hammering. What did you just say?" The little girl blinked, rubbing her eyes as if waking from a dream. "I had a bad dream. About a black moon and a big wolf that wanted to eat Uncle Vesper's heart. You were there too, but you were glowing like fire." She reached for Priya's hand, innocent once more. "Can I have some water?" Vesper exchanged a single, loaded glance with Priya. The mate bond carried his alarm clearly, protective fury mixed with dawning horror. He motioned for the healer on duty to bring water, while he gently questioned the child. "Do you remember the woman who tied you to the tree?" he asked softly. Mira nodded, sipping from the cup. She smelled like Mama. But her eyes were wrong. She said I had to wait for my new mother to find me. That the Fire Lady would make everything right. Priya's stomach twisted. New mother. The shadow had been planning this from the moment she arrived, using her courage, her growing love for Vesper, even her fractured wolf to deliver Mira into the heart of the fortress. They left the child under triple guard and heavier wards, then retreated to the war room where maps and reports now included fresh markings around Myra's chambers. Draven was still locked away, protesting his innocence through the bars. Lyra had vanished back into the wilds with her fractured pack, leaving only the Mother Tree scroll as evidence. Priya paced while Vesper studied Thorn's blood-written warning again. "The third head," she said quietly. "If Draven and Lyra were two, and Mira is connected to both, then the child herself might be the vessel. But who is directing her? Thorn is dead. Seraphine is dead. Who remains that could awaken something in Mira on the Black Moon?" Vesper's jaw tightened. Someone still inside these walls. Someone who had access to Mira after we rescued her. Someone who could plant the trigger. Priya stopped pacing. The realization hit like a silver blade. The one who carried her back through the forest. Me. But I wasn't alone. You were there. Garrick. Silas. Maestra Thorn was already captured by then. She trailed off. Silas. Thorn's nephew. The quiet, loyal guard who had been at every critical moment, Eastern Ridge body, the passages, the river ambush. Always present, always in the background. Vesper's eyes darkened. Silas. They summoned Garrick immediately. The big guard looked exhausted but loyal as ever. When questioned about his cousin, Garrick's face paled. Silas has been different since the Black Moon before last. Quiet. Spending more time in the old archives. He asked me once about the fractured wolf suppression rituals, said it was for research to help Lady Priya. I thought nothing of it. Vesper's claws scraped the table. Find him. Now. Bring him alive if possible. Garrick nodded and left at a run. While they waited, Priya turned to Vesper, the mate bond pulling her closer. The night at the border outpost had changed something fundamental between them, the raw honesty, the shared passion, the choice she had made to trust love over blood. She stepped into his arms, resting her forehead against his chest. If Silas is the third head, she murmured, then the shadow has been wearing the face of loyalty this whole time. And Mira, she called me mother in that voice. What if the black moon awakens whatever curse or power was planted in her? Vesper's arms tightened around her, one hand stroking her hair with surprising gentleness. Then we protect her and break the cycle. You are not just my mate, Priya. You are the fire that is rewriting every old curse in these halls. Whatever happens on the black moon, we face it as one. She tilted her face up and kissed him, slow at first, then deeper, the bond flaring warm and bright between them. The war room faded for a few stolen moments as hands roamed, breaths quickened, and the lingering fear transformed into fierce need. Vesper lifted her onto the edge of the obsidian table, careful of maps and pins, his mouth trailing fire down her neck while she tangled her fingers in his dark hair. Their connection felt stronger than ever, balanced rather than draining, two fractured souls forging something unbreakable. A sharp knock shattered the moment. Garrick returned, breathing hard, face grim. Silas is gone. His chambers are empty. But he left this. He placed a small wooden box on the table. Inside lay a single silver dagger, the missing seventh blade from the original set, wrapped in a note written in Silas's neat hand. To the new Lady Vesper. The child carries the awakened blood of 3 lines, Draven's ambition, Seraphine's cunning, and your fractured power that I helped stir at the mother tree. On the black moon, Mira will become the vessel that drains every alpha strength in the 7 packs into one being me. You brought her here. You awakened her with your touch. Thank you for completing the ritual. The Ice Lord's heart was never the target. It was always the power he guarded. Come to the old crypts alone at midnight tomorrow, or the child dies screaming your name. Priya's hands shook as she read. The shadow had used her courage, her compassion, her very bond with Vesper as the final key. Silas had played the long game, loyal guard by day, architect of the curse by night. Vesper's roar shook the war room. Gold flooded his eyes completely as his wolf surged. He will not touch either of you. They spent the remaining hours preparing. Priya trained with her awakened wolf, shifting partially with greater control thanks to the bond. Vesper coordinated loyal forces, sending ravens to reliable alphas while keeping Draven and the remaining emissaries under tighter watch. Between strategy sessions, they stole moments of intimacy. Quick, desperate kisses in corridors, hands clasped under the table, quiet promises whispered in the dark. The mate bond had become their greatest weapon and their greatest vulnerability. Every touch strengthened it, every doubt tested it. As the next midnight approached, Priya insisted on going to the crypts. He wants me alone because he thinks the bond makes me weak without you. But we've proven it makes us stronger. Let me draw him out. You stay hidden with the best wolves. When the moment comes, we strike together. Vesper hated the plan, but he agreed because he trusted her fire now. Priya descended into the crypts alone, silver dagger at her hip, moonstone and locket around her neck. The air grew colder, heavier with the scent of old stone and death. Torches ignited as she passed, casting long shadows across sarcophagi. At the deepest chamber, Silas waited beside Myra's small, sleeping form laid on an ancient altar. The guard's eyes glowed with unstable gold. Fractured like hers and Lyra's, but twisted by whatever ritual he had performed. You came, he said, voice layered and wrong. Good. The black moon is close enough. The child's blood is primed. All it needs is one drop from the Firebrand who awakened her. He gestured to a silver chalice. Cut your palm. Let your blood mix with hers. Then the power of every suppressed fractured wolf and every alpha bound by the old treaties will flow into me. I will become the true lord of the 7 packs. Vesper's line ends. The Ice Lord becomes nothing but a cautionary tale. Priya kept her distance, wolf alert and ready. Why Mira? Why not just kill Vesper outright? Silas smiled, teeth too sharp. Because killing him would only make him a martyr. Draining him through the child he swore to protect? That breaks him first. And you delivered her. Your compassion was the final ingredient. The fractured sister who chose love over blood, your choice completed the circle. Mira stirred on the altar, whimpering softly. The sound tore at Priya's heart. Through the mate bond, she felt Vesper's presence, close, hidden, waiting. His strength flowed into her, steadying her fractured shift. Priya stepped closer, drawing the silver dagger slowly. You're wrong about one thing, Silas. My choice wasn't the circle's completion. It was its breaking. She lunged. Not at Silas, but at the altar, slicing her own palm deliberately and letting her blood drip onto Myra's forehead instead of the chalice. Wake up, little one. You are not a vessel. You are a child. And no curse owns you. The mate bond blazed like wildfire. Myra's eyes flew open gold again, but this time clear and frightened. A pulse of power rippled outward, not draining, but shattering. The silver chalice cracked. Silas screamed as the unstable magic backlashed into him, his fractured shift twisting violently out of control. Vesper burst from the shadows with Garrick and loyal wolves, tackling Silas to the ground. The guard fought like a beast, but the backlash had weakened him. Priya scooped Mira into her arms, shielding the child with her body as the crypt shook with released magic. When the dust settled, Silas lay bound in silver chains, his eyes dimming as the stolen power bled away harmlessly into the stone. Mira clung to Priya, sobbing. I don't want to be a vessel. I want to be safe. You are safe, Priya whispered, rocking her. You're home now. With us. Vesper approached, bloodied but victorious, and pulled both of them into his arms. The mate bond sank bright, balanced, stronger than any curse. He kissed Priya's temple, then Myra's hair, the Ice Lord's heart finally fully thawed. But as they ascended from the crypts with Silas in tow and Mira safely between them, a final raven waited on the battlements, delivered by an unknown bird. The note was unsigned, written in fresh blood. Well played, Firebrand. You broke the 3rd head. But the shadow has 7 heads for 7 packs. The black moon is coming. And the true master has not yet shown his face. Enjoy your victory. While the child still calls you mother. Priya looked at Vesper, the mate bond steady despite the new threat. Mira squeezed her hand tighter. The shadow was larger than they had imagined, woven through every pack, patient and ancient. But for the first time, Priya and Vesper faced it not as lord and captive mate, but as true partners, ice and fire, heart and wolf, bound by choice and love. The black moon would rise soon. And when it did, they would be ready. Together. Chapter 11. The fortress bells tolled at dawn, slow and heavy, as if mourning something not yet lost. Priya stood on the highest balcony with Vesper, Mira tucked safely between them, when the horizon darkened unnaturally, not with storm clouds, but with the silhouettes of wolves from all 7 packs converging on the valley below. At their head rode a single rider on a black destrier, cloak billowing, face hidden until the first rays of sun caught the silver crown on his brow. The rider lifted a horn and sounded a single, piercing note that made the mate bond between Priya and Vesper twist like a knife. Then the rider's hood fell back, revealing the face of the one they had trusted most in the end, Alpha Kale of Stormhowl, his eyes burning with the same fractured gold that now haunted Myra's nightmares. The black moon rises in 3 nights, Kale called up to the battlements, voice carrying on unnatural wind. Surrender the child and the Firebrand, Ice Lord, or I will paint these walls with the blood of every wolf who still calls you master. The 7-headed shadow has chosen its true king at last. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where alliances shatter like glass and the line between savior and destroyer blurs with every kiss. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the chapter that will rip your heart in two. Priya's claws pricked her palms as she gripped the stone parapet. Mira whimpered and pressed closer to her side, small hands fisting in Priya's cloak. Vesper's arm came around them both, his body rigid with alpha rage, but the mate bond carried something deeper, cold calculation layered over raw fear for the two females who had become his world. Kale sat tall on his horse, flanked by banners from Storm Howl, Emberfang remnants, and even a few neutral packs that had once sworn loyalty to Vesper. The silver crown on his head was no mere ornament. It pulsed with the same shadow magic that had twisted Silas and Thorn. "You were the third head all along?" Vesper shouted down, voice carrying the full weight of his power. "Playing the grieving alpha while you pulled strings from the shadows?" Kale laughed, the sound echoing off the mountains. "Third? I am the first and the last, Vesper. While you grieved your gentle mate and played politics with lotteries, I studied the old curses. I found the fractured bloodlines and bound them to my will. Silas was my instrument. Draven my jealous pawn. Elara my useful fanatic. Even your precious steward served my design without knowing the full pattern. The child Mira carries the convergence, Draven's ambition, Seraphine's cunning, your new mate's awakened fire. On the Black Moon, I will perform the final rite. The power of every alpha in the 7 packs will flow into me through her. And you. You will watch your Firebrand and the child you swore to protect become the fuel." Priya felt the mate bond surge with protective fury. Her own wolf rose, partial shift rippling across her skin without pain now. "You won't touch her," she called, voice dual-toned and strong. "Mira is not a vessel. She is a child. And I am not fuel. I am the flame that will burn your shadow to ash." Kale's gaze locked on her, hungry and calculating. Brave words from the lottery's chosen. "But you already feel it, don't you? The pull when you saved the girl. The way your blood completed the circle at the Crypts. Come down willingly, little Firebrand. Bring the child. Spare your mate the sight of you both screaming while I take what is mine." Vesper's growl shook the battlements. He raised his hand. Archers and wolf guards appeared along the walls, bows drawn, claws ready. "Leave my lands, Kale. Take your traitors with you. The Black Moon will rise on your grave, not your coronation." Kale smiled thinly. "Then war it is. 3 nights, Vesper. 3 nights until the Black Moon devours the sky. Choose wisely." He wheeled his horse and rode back toward the assembling army, the packs behind him howling in unified challenge. The fortress erupted into controlled chaos. Horns sounded. Messengers raced. Loyal alphas who could still be reached were summoned by Raven and fast riders. Priya carried Mira to the safest inner chamber, while Vesper coordinated defenses. The child clung to her, whispering, "I don't want to hurt anyone. The bad dreams say I will." "You won't," Priya promised, pressing a kiss to Myra's forehead. "We're going to protect you. And you're going to help us break this for good." Later, in the war room, maps were strewn with new markers showing Kale's forces encircling the valley. Draven had been brought up from the dungeons under heavy guard, his usual charm replaced by grim resignation. "I didn't know it was Kale," he admitted, staring at the maps. "I thought I was using Thorn and Silas for my own ends. He played us all, fed my jealousy, fed Elara's rage, fed Seraphine's ambition. The crown he wears is forged from the same silver as the daggers. It amplifies the old suppression magic and reverses it, stealing power instead of binding it." Vesper paced like a caged wolf. "Then we cut the head off before the Black Moon. Strike tonight while they're still organizing camp." Priya shook her head. "Kale wants that. He's daring you to attack so he can claim self-defense and fracture the remaining loyal packs. We need to be smarter. Use the time to awaken Myra's power safely, under our control, not his." All eyes turned to her. The mate bond hummed with Vesper's pride and worry. That night, while the fortress prepared for siege, Priya and Vesper took Mira to the sealed vault where the original silver daggers had been kept. The room was reinforced with every ward they could layer. Lyra had been quietly contacted through neutral channels and, surprisingly, agreed to a parley under truce. Her fractured wolves would not join Kale if Priya could prove the child could be freed without becoming a weapon. Under the guidance of the few remaining neutral elders who had arrived before the encirclement, Priya began the delicate work of awakening Mira without triggering the full curse. She sat with the child on a circle of moonsilver runes, holding her small hands while Vesper stood guard, the mate bond flowing steadily between all three like a living chain. "Feel the fire, not the drain," Priya whispered to Mira, letting her own awakened wolf guide the girl. "You are not a vessel. You are a bridge. Choose where the power goes." Myra's eyes flickered gold, but this time she smiled instead of screaming. A soft glow spread from their joined hands, warm, not hungry. The mate bond amplified it, Vesper's steady alpha strength balancing the wild, fractured energy. For the first time, Myra's power felt like light instead of shadow. Outside the vault, the siege began in earnest. Kale's forces tested the outer walls with probing attacks. Arrows tipped with silver, wolves flinging themselves at the gates in suicidal waves. Garrick led the defense brilliantly, but casualties mounted. Between waves, Priya and Vesper stole precious moments together in their chambers. The bond demanded connection now more than ever. They came together with desperate passion, clothes shed hastily, bodies moving in perfect sync, as if the world outside might end before dawn. Vesper worshipped her with hands and mouth, growling her name like a prayer while Priya arched beneath him, claws lightly marking his shoulders in claim. The mate bond blazed brighter with every shared breath, every whispered, "I love you," that finally broke free from both their lips. In those stolen hours, the Ice Lord was gone. Only the man remained, vulnerable, fierce, and utterly hers. On the second night, Lyra arrived under heavy escort. The half-sisters faced each other across the vault circle. Mira slept peacefully between them, power now humming gently rather than chaotically. "You chose him," Lyra said, voice tight. "Over blood. Over freedom for our kind." Priya met her eyes steadily. "I chose freedom for all of us, including the fractured. The suppression ends not by stealing power, but by sharing it. Mira is proof. Help us stop Kale, and we rewrite the treaties together. No more curses. No more shadows." Lyra was silent for a long moment. Then she knelt beside Mira and placed her hand over the child's heart. The glow brightened. When she stood, her fractured shift stabilized visibly. "For her," Lyra said. "Not for him. But perhaps for all of us." The alliance was fragile, but real. Fractured wolves slipped through Kale's lines to reinforce the fortress from within. On the third night, the eve of the Black Moon, Kale launched the full assault. The sky darkened prematurely as the moon began its black phase. Howls filled the valley. Siege engines battered the walls. Kale himself rode at the forefront, silver crown blazing, calling for Priya and Mira to be delivered. Priya stood on the battlements with Vesper, Mira safely hidden below with Lyra and trusted guards. The mate bond sang between them like living fire and ice intertwined. Kale's voice rose above the chaos. "Last chance, Firebrand. Bring the child or watch your mate die first." Priya stepped to the edge, wind whipping her hair. Her wolf was fully awake now, controlled and powerful. "You want the vessel? Come and take her yourself." She raised her hand. Myra's awakened power, guided, not stolen, rippled outward from the fortress in a visible wave of golden light. Every loyal wolf felt a surge of strength. Every traitor in Kale's ranks felt their own fractured power turn against them, unstable shifts collapsing. Kale roared in fury and charged the gates personally. Vesper shifted fully then, massive, midnight black wolf with eyes of molten gold, and leaped from the battlements to meet him. Priya followed a heartbeat later, her own shift completing in a blaze of fire and shadow, smaller but blindingly fast. The clash on the broken field was cataclysmic. Wolf against wolf. Brother against brother in spirit if not blood. Priya and Vesper fought as one, the mate bond making their movements seamless, his brute strength, her wild speed and fractured fire. Kale was powerful, the crown amplifying every blow, but he faced two hearts bound by choice, not curse. When Priya landed on his back and sank her fangs into the shoulder beneath the crown, Vesper struck the final blow, claws tearing the silver crown free. The artifact shattered on the ground. The black moon reached its zenith overhead. Power exploded outward, not draining into Kale, but dispersing freely. Fractured wolves across the battlefield felt their shifts stabilize. Alphas felt their strength return balanced, not stolen. Kale fell, defeated, his eyes dimming as the shadow magic unraveled. The surviving enemy forces broke and fled. As the black moon began to wane, Vesper shifted back, bloodied but alive. He pulled Priya into his arms right there on the blood-soaked field, kissing her fiercely amid the cheers of their wolves. Mira ran out to them, Lyra close behind, the child laughing for the first time without fear. The 7 packs would need new treaties. The Shadow's remaining threads would have to be hunted. But for tonight, the Ice Lord's fortress stood unbroken, and the heart that had once been hollow beat strong and warm against Priya's. Yet as they walked back through the shattered gates, a single black raven landed on the highest tower, untouched by the battle. Tied to its leg was one final note, written in unmarked blood. The Shadow has 7 heads. You cut 3. For remain. The true master waits in the place where the lottery was first forged. Come when the next full moon rises, or the child will never be truly free. Congratulations on your victory, Firebrand. The real game is only beginning. Priya looked at Vesper, then at Mira tucked safely in her arms. The mate bond thrummed with renewed resolve. The war was not over. But neither were they. Hand in hand, heart to heart, they would face whatever came next together. Chapter 12. The Black Raven's final note burned in Priya's mind as she and Vesper rode hard toward the ancient ruins where the first lottery had been forged centuries ago, the Temple of 7 Moons, hidden deep in neutral territory between all packs. Mira rode with Lyra in a guarded carriage behind them, the child's small hand waving bravely from the window. The mate bond thrummed with quiet determination between Priya and Vesper, but as they crested the last ridge at dusk, the temple's silver spires came into view, and so did the army camped at its base. Not Kale's remnants. Not fractured wolves. A new banner fluttered in the wind, a crowned wolf devouring its own tail. At the center stood a lone figure in flowing white robes, face veiled, holding a glowing orb that pulsed with the exact rhythm of Priya's heartbeat. The figure lowered the veil, revealing eyes that mirrored Priya's own. "Welcome home, daughter," the woman called, voice carrying like moonlight on water. "I am your mother, and the 4th head of the Shadow has waited 7 lifetimes for this reunion. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where blood ties cut deeper than silver and every homecoming hides a blade. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the chapter that will make you question who the real monster has been all along." Priya's horse reared in shock. She steadied it with one hand while the other instinctively reached for the silver dagger at her thigh. The mate bond flared hot with Vesper's instant protectiveness as he positioned his mount between her and the temple steps. "My mother died in the hunt," Priya called down, voice steady despite the storm raging in her chest. The scroll at the mother tree said so. Lyra saw the blood. The woman in white smiled, sad and ancient. "The scroll told the story I wanted told. I survived. I let the packs believe I was dead so I could weave the shadow from the shadows. The fractured bloodline did not need freedom, it needed a queen. I became that queen. The lottery was never about peace. It was my design to bring the strongest fractured daughter back to me when the time was right. You, Priya. The one whose wolf burned brightest even when suppressed." Lyra dismounted from the carriage, claws already out, positioning herself protectively beside Mira. "You abandoned us. You let them hunt me, while you played goddess in the ruins." Their mother Elara tilted her head. "I sacrificed the mother so the queen could rise. And now the black moon's echo still lingers. The orb in my hand holds the converged power Kale failed to claim. One drop of your blood, Priya, and I complete the rite." The 7 packs will bow to a single fractured queen. No more suppression. No more weak alphas ruling through fear. Only true power. Vesper's wolf surged visibly beneath his skin, gold flooding his eyes. You will not touch my mate or the child. The shadow ends here. Elara laughed softly, the sound beautiful and terrible. Your mate? The bond you share is the final key, Ice Lord. Every time you touched her, every time you loved her, the bond fed the orb. Your thawing heart was exactly what I needed, raw alpha strength mixed with fractured fire. The child Mira is the vessel, but Priya is the spark. And you're the fuel. Priya felt the mate bond twist, not breaking, but pulling, as if the orb was reaching through their connection and sipping gently at Vesper's power. Horror washed over her. Had their love, their passion, their every stolen moment been feeding the enemy all along? She slid from her horse and stepped forward, claws lengthening. Then take me. Leave Mira and Vesper out of this. If I'm the spark, let's see how brightly I burn when I choose to scorch the shadow instead of feeding it. Elara's eyes gleamed with approval. Brave. Just like me. Come inside the temple alone. The rite requires the daughter's willing blood. Refuse, and my army takes the child by force while you watch. Vesper caught Priya's arm, voice low and urgent. It's a trap. She wants to separate us so the bond can be severed or twisted. Priya turned to him, cupping his face with both hands. The mate bond sang between them, strong, balanced, real despite the orb's pull. Then we let her think she's winning. I go in. You follow hidden with Elara and the best wolves. Mira stays guarded. We end this where it began. He searched her eyes, then kissed her fiercely, pouring 7 years of ice and newfound fire into the press of his lips. If she hurts you, I will tear the temple down stone by stone. I love you, Firebrand. Come back to me. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. Stay alive for me. Priya walked up the temple steps alone, the white-robed figures parting silently for her. Inside, the Temple of 7 Moons was breathtaking and ominous. 7 towering pillars carved with moon phases, a central altar of black obsidian, and the glowing orb floating above it like a captured star. Elara waited at the altar. Kneel, daughter. Offer your palm. Let the orb drink 1 drop. The shadow will rise as it was always meant to. Priya approached slowly, senses sharp. She could feel the mate bond stretching, but not breaking. Vesper was close, moving through hidden passages Elara had described from old stories. Before I do, tell me the truth. Why the lottery? Why all the pain? Elara's expression softened for a moment, almost maternal. Because fractured wolves were hunted to near extinction by Vesper's ancestors. I survived by becoming what they feared most, a planner, a weaver. The lottery ensured the strongest bloodlines would converge in one place, generation after generation, until a daughter like you appeared. One whose wolf could awaken fully through a true mate bond. You were the culmination. Your love for the Ice Lord was the final ingredient. Beautiful, isn't it? Hate and love, both serving the same queen. Priya reached the altar. The orb pulsed faster, matching her heartbeat exactly. She drew her silver dagger and sliced her palm deliberately, letting a single drop of blood fall toward the orb. But at the last moment she twisted her wrist and flung the blood not at the orb, but directly onto the central rune carved into the obsidian altar. The anchor point Elara had told her about in hurried whispers before they arrived. The effect was instantaneous. The orb screamed a high, keening sound that shattered nearby pillars. The shadow magic unraveled violently, lashing out at Elara instead of empowering her. The white robes tore as Elara's own fractured shift tried to emerge and failed, her power turning inward. You chose wrong, Priya snarled, lunging across the altar. I am not your daughter anymore. I am Vesper's mate. Myra's protector. And the fire that ends you. Their clash was mother against daughter, claws and fangs, ancient power against newly balanced fire. Elara was strong, centuries of planning giving her cunning, but Priya had the mate bond feeding her Vesper's steady strength and her own awakened wolf burning bright. Vesper burst into the temple with Elara and elite wolves at his back. He shifted mid-leap, massive black wolf slamming into Elara's side and pinning her to the ground. Priya drove the silver dagger through the queen's shoulder, not killing, but anchoring her to the broken altar. The orb cracked and fell, its light fading to nothing. Elara laughed wetly through bloodied lips as the fight left her. You think this ends the shadow? 7 heads, daughter. You have slain 4. 3 remain. The true master still waits, in the place you least expect. Enjoy your happy ending. It will taste like ash when the final head rises. She went limp, unconscious but alive. They bound her with every silver chain they carried and sealed the temple behind them. Outside, the army that had served Elara, mostly mesmerized fractured wolves and ambitious lesser alphas, began to surrender as the shadow magic dissipated. Lyra took charge of them, offering redemption instead of death. Mira ran to Priya the moment she emerged, throwing small arms around her waist. You saved us again. You're my real mother now. Priya knelt and hugged the child tight, tears mixing with the blood on her face. Vesper joined them, shifting back and pulling both into his arms. The mate bond glowed warm and whole, untouched by the orb's hunger. That night, in a makeshift camp at the temple's edge, they celebrated quietly. Healers tended wounds. Wolves from different packs shared fires for the first time without suspicion. Priya and Vesper slipped away to a secluded spring-fed pool beneath the stars, washing the battle from their skin. Their lovemaking was slow and reverent this time, bodies sliding together in the warm water, hands mapping every scar and victory, mouths whispering promises between gasps and growls. The mate bond sang louder than ever, a perfect balance of ice and fire, strength and wildness. Vesper moved inside her like a man who had finally found home, and Priya clung to him, crying out his name as pleasure crested in waves that felt like the moon itself breaking open. Afterward, wrapped in furs on the mossy bank, Vesper traced lazy patterns on her bare hip. 3 heads left, he murmured. We will hunt them together. No more secrets. No more shadows between us. Priya kissed his chest, right over his heart. Together. Always. Yet as they rode back toward the fortress the next morning, with Elara bound and gagged in a silver-lined carriage, Mira riding proudly between her new parents, and Lyra at their side as uneasy ally, a single unmarked raven circled overhead before darting north. Tied to its leg was a tiny scroll addressed only to Priya. She opened it in private later that night, back in the safety of their chambers. The handwriting was elegant, unfamiliar, and chilling. Congratulations on slaying the 4th head, Firebrand. Your mother was always the weakest of us. The 5th head watches from the place the lottery was truly born, not the temple, but the heart of Whispering Pines itself. Your father knows the final secret. Ask him why he truly begged the elders not to send you. The child's blood is still the key. And the next full moon will decide whether you remain the hero, or become the 5th head yourself. Sleep well, daughter of shadows. The game remembers every choice. Priya crumpled the note, heart pounding as she looked at Vesper sleeping peacefully beside her. Mira curled safely in the adjoining room. The shadow had not been defeated. It had simply shed another skin. And the next revelation waited in the one place she had once called home, Whispering Pines, where her father still carried secrets sharp enough to cut the mate bond in 2. Chapter 13. The journey back to Whispering Pines felt like riding into a memory laced with thorns. Priya rode at the front beside Vesper, Mira safely nestled in a reinforced carriage with Lyra and trusted guards flanking it. Elara remained bound and sedated in a separate silver-lined wagon, her presence a constant chill in the air. The mate bond between Priya and Vesper hummed steady and warm, a lifeline against the growing dread. But as the familiar pine forests of her birth pack rose on the horizon at twilight, a lone howl echoed from the trees long, mournful and unmistakably her father's. Then the trees parted, revealing the modest hall of Whispering Pines, and her father standing on the steps, pale and trembling, with a silver collar locked around his throat. Behind him stood 3 robed elders, each holding a glowing runestone. The eldest stepped forward, voice carrying on the wind. Welcome home, Lottery's daughter. Your father has carried the fifth head of the shadow since the day you were born. He begs you now to finish what the bloodline started, kill the Ice Lord, and claim the true throne. Refuse, and the collar tightens until his heart stops. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where the past devours the present and love is forced to choose between mercy and survival. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the chapter that will tear your soul between blood and bond. Priya's wolf surged violently, claws bursting free as she slid from her horse. The mate bond flared with Vesper's instant rage and protective fury, but she felt his deliberate restraint. He would not strike first, not while her father's life hung by a silver thread. "Father," she cried, stepping forward. Her father, Eldrin, looked at her with eyes full of love and unbearable guilt. The silver collar pulsed with the same shadow magic that had animated the orb in the temple, thin lines of darkness crawling across his skin like living veins. "I'm sorry, my fire," Eldrin rasped, voice strained. "I never wanted this for you. The elders, they bound me the night your mother died. I was the fifth head by force, not choice. I begged them not to send you to the lottery because I knew it would awaken the shadow in your blood. But they threatened to kill you both if I refused. The collar, it forces truth when it tightens. Ask me anything. I cannot lie." The eldest elder smiled coldly. "The child Mira must be brought forward. Her blood, combined with yours and the Ice Lord's, will complete the final convergence. The shadow has 7 heads, but only one true master. You, Priya. Kill Vesper. Take the throne. For your father. Or watch him die slowly while the collar drains his life into the shadow." Vesper dismounted, positioning himself at Priya's side, claws ready but voice calm and lethal. "Your shadow dies with you tonight. Release him, or I will tear this hall apart, and every elder with it." Lyra moved the carriage closer, keeping Mira hidden but ready to protect her. The child peered out with wide, frightened eyes, whispering, "Don't let them hurt grandfather." Priya's heart fractured. Grandfather. Mira had begun calling Eldrin that during the journey, innocent and hopeful. Now the title felt like a blade. She turned to her father, tears burning in her eyes. "Is it true? Have you been part of the shadow all along?" The collar tightened visibly. Eldrin gasped, clutching at his throat as darkness spread. "Yes and no. I was forced to help weave the early threads, guiding the lottery runes, ensuring fractured bloodlines were chosen. But I fought it every step. I hid the true scrolls. I tried to suppress your wolf to protect you from becoming what your mother wanted. When the lottery chose you, I begged because I knew it would bring you straight into the web. The fifth head is not power, it is the keeper of secrets. I kept them to shield you, until now." The elder raised a hand. The collar constricted further. Eldrin dropped to his knees, blood trickling from the corners of his mouth. "Choose, daughter of shadows," the elder intoned. "The Ice Lord's heart or your father's." Priya looked at Vesper. The mate bond poured strength into her. His love, his trust, his unwavering belief that she would choose them. She felt his wolf reaching for hers, steady ice balancing her fire. She stepped closer to her father, kneeling before him. "I choose both," she whispered. Then louder, for the elders, "Release him, or I will burn this entire pack to ash with the power you tried to control." Her wolf flared. The partial shift rippled across her body, eyes blazing gold. She placed her clawed hand on the silver collar and pushed her awakened power into it, not feeding the shadow, but overwhelming it with the balanced strength of the mate bond. The collar cracked, then shattered in a burst of harmless light. Eldrin collapsed forward into her arms, gasping for air. "My brave girl, you broke it." "The shadow cannot force me anymore." Chaos erupted. The 3 elders shifted into twisted, shadow-enhanced wolves and lunged. Vesper met them head-on, his massive black form a blur of fury and precision. Lyra joined the fray with her stabilized fractured shift, protecting the carriage where Mira watched with wide eyes. Priya fought beside her mate, claws and fangs moving in perfect harmony with his through the bond. Every strike they landed felt shared his strength, her speed, their combined will unbreakable. One elder fell to Vesper's jaws, another to Priya's precise strike at the throat. The third tried to flee toward the trees, but Elara brought him down. When the dust settled, the hall of whispering pines stood silent except for the ragged breathing of the survivors. Eldrin rose shakily, supported by Priya. "I have one more secret," he said quietly, leading them inside to a hidden chamber beneath the main hall. There, carved into the stone wall behind a false panel, was the original charter of the lottery. 7 names, 7 bloodlines, and at the very center, a single rune that bound them all. "The true master is not one person," Eldrin explained, tracing the rune. "It is the charter itself, an ancient spell woven into the pack's foundation. Each head we slay feeds the rune, making the final convergence stronger. Your mother was the architect, but she did not create it alone. The 7th and final head is the rune itself. On the next full moon, if the charter is not destroyed with willing blood from all 7 lines, it will awaken fully and force every wolf in the packs into eternal shadow control." Vesper studied the carving, jaw tight. "Then we destroy it. Together. All of us, fractured and alpha, old and new." Mira tugged on Priya's hand. "Can I help? I don't want to be the key anymore. I want to be free." Priya knelt and hugged her. "You already are, little one. We all are." That night, in the quiet of her childhood home, Priya and Vesper were given the old family chambers. The mate bond pulled them together with aching need after the battle. They came together slowly at first, tender kisses turning hungry, hands exploring with reverence and urgency. Vesper worshipped every inch of her as if afraid the shadow might still steal her away, while Priya marked him with claws and teeth, claiming the man who had thawed completely for her. Their lovemaking was a defiance. A celebration of choice over curse, love over blood. The bond glowed brighter than ever, balanced and unbreakable, as they moved together until exhaustion and pleasure claimed them both. In the afterglow, wrapped in furs with Mira sleeping safely in the next room, Vesper traced the line of Priya's jaw. "Whatever the final head demands," he murmured, "we face it as one. You are my heart, Priya. Not hollow anymore. Full of fire." She kissed him softly. "And you are my home. Ice and all." But as dawn crept through the windows, a soft knock sounded. Eldrin entered, face grave, holding a small, sealed scroll that had arrived by Raven during the night. "It bears no mark," he said, handing it to Priya. "But the wax is the color of fresh blood." Priya broke the seal and read aloud, voice steady despite the chill that settled over the room. "Well done, daughter of fire and ice. You have slain the 5th head and freed your father. But the charter's rune feeds on every victory. The 6th head waits in the one place you have never looked, inside the mate bond itself. On the next full moon, the bond will demand a final price. One of you must willingly sacrifice the other's power to destroy the rune. Choose wrong and both hearts shatter forever. The shadow remembers every kiss, every touch, every vow. It will use them against you. Sleep well in your childhood bed. The final game begins when the moon turns full." Priya crumpled the note, looking at Vesper with wide eyes. The mate bond hummed between them, strong, loving, but now carrying the faint echo of a new, terrible choice. The shadow had not been external all along. It had been growing inside the very thing that had saved them, their love. Mira stirred in the next room, calling softly for her new mother. Priya reached for Vesper's hand, squeezing tight. 6 heads slain or exposed. 1 remained. And the price for freedom might be the very bond that had taught the Ice Lord how to feel again. Chapter 13. The journey back to Whispering Pines felt like riding into a memory laced with thorns. Priya rode at the front beside Vesper, Mira safely nestled in a reinforced carriage with Elara and trusted guards flanking it. Elara remained bound and sedated in a separate silver-lined wagon, her presence a constant chill in the air. The mate bond between Priya and Vesper hummed steady and warm, a lifeline against the growing dread. But as the familiar pine forests of her birth pack rose on the horizon at twilight, a lone howl echoed from the trees, long, mournful, and unmistakably her father's. Then the trees parted, revealing the modest hall of whispering pines, and her father standing on the steps, pale and trembling, with a silver collar locked around his throat. Behind him stood 3 robed elders, each holding a glowing runestone. The eldest stepped forward, voice carrying on the wind. "Welcome home, Lottery's daughter. Your father has carried the 5th head of the shadow since the day you were born. He begs you now to finish what the bloodline started, kill the Ice Lord, and claim the true throne. Refuse, and the collar tightens until his heart stops. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing, where the past devours the present and love is forced to choose between mercy and survival. If you're new here, welcome to our enchanted family. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss the chapter that will tear your soul between blood and bond." Priya's wolf surged violently, claws bursting free as she slid from her horse. The mate bond flared with Vesper's instant rage and protective fury, but she felt his deliberate restraint. He would not strike first, not while her father's life hung by a silver thread. "Father," she cried, stepping forward. Her father, Eldrin, looked at her with eyes full of love and unbearable guilt. The silver collar pulsed with the same shadow magic that had animated the orb in the temple, thin lines of darkness crawling across his skin like living veins. "I'm sorry, my fire," Eldrin rasped, voice strained. "I never wanted this for you. The elders, they bound me the night your mother died. I was the 5th head by force, not choice. I begged them not to send you to the lottery because I knew it would awaken the shadow in your blood. But they threatened to kill you both if I refused. The collar, it forces truth when it tightens. Ask me anything. I cannot lie." The eldest elder smiled coldly. "The child Mira must be brought forward. Her blood, combined with yours and the Ice Lord's, will complete the final convergence. The shadow has 7 heads, but only one true master. You, Priya. Kill Vesper. Take the throne. For your father. Or watch him die slowly while the collar drains his life into the shadow." Vesper dismounted, positioning himself at Priya's side, claws ready but voice calm and lethal. "Your shadow dies with you tonight. Release him, or I will tear this hall apart, and every elder with it." Lyra moved the carriage closer, keeping Mira hidden but ready to protect her. The child peered out with wide, frightened eyes, whispering, "Don't let them hurt grandfather." Priya's heart fractured. Grandfather. Mira had begun calling Eldrin that during the journey, innocent and hopeful. Now the title felt like a blade. She turned to her father, tears burning in her eyes. "Is it true? Have you been part of the shadow all along?" The collar tightened visibly. Eldrin gasped, clutching at his throat as darkness spread. "Yes and no. I was forced to help weave the early threads, guiding the lottery runes, ensuring fractured bloodlines were chosen. But I fought it every step. I hid the true scrolls. I tried to suppress your wolf to protect you from becoming what your mother wanted. When the lottery chose you, I begged because I knew it would bring you straight into the web. The 5th head is not power, it is the keeper of secrets. I kept them to shield you, until now." The elder raised a hand. The collar constricted further. Eldrin dropped to his knees, blood trickling from the corners of his mouth. "Choose, daughter of shadows," the elder intoned. "The Ice Lord's heart or your father's." Priya looked at Vesper. The mate bond poured strength into her. His love, his trust, his unwavering belief that she would choose them. She felt his wolf reaching for hers, steady ice balancing her fire. She stepped closer to her father, kneeling before him. "I choose both," she whispered. Then louder, for the elders, "Release him, or I will burn this entire pack to ash with the power you tried to control." Her wolf flared. The partial shift rippled across her body, eyes blazing gold. She placed her clawed hand on the silver collar and pushed her awakened power into it, not feeding the shadow, but overwhelming it with the balanced strength of the mate bond. The collar cracked, then shattered in a burst of harmless light. Eldrin collapsed forward into her arms, gasping for air. "My brave girl, you broke it. The shadow cannot force me anymore." Chaos erupted. The three elders shifted into twisted, shadow-enhanced wolves and lunged. Vesper met them head-on, his massive black form a blur of fury and precision. Elara joined the fray with her stabilized fractured shift, protecting the carriage where Mira watched with wide eyes. Priya fought beside her mate, claws and fangs moving in perfect harmony with his through the bond. Every strike they landed felt shared his strength, her speed, their combined will unbreakable. One elder fell to Vesper's jaws. Another to Priya's precise strike at the throat. The third tried to flee toward the trees, but Elara brought him down. When the dust settled, the Hall of Whispering Pines stood silent except for the ragged breathing of the survivors. Eldrin rose shakily, supported by Priya. "I have one more secret," he said quietly, leading them inside to a hidden chamber beneath the main hall. There, carved into the stone wall behind a false panel, was the original charter of the lottery. 7 names, 7 bloodlines, and at the very center, a single rune that bound them all. "The true master is not one person," Eldrin explained, tracing the rune. "It is the charter itself, an ancient spell woven into the pack's foundation. Each head we slay feeds the rune, making the final convergence stronger. Your mother was the architect, but she did not create it alone. The 7th and final head is the rune itself. On the next full moon, if the charter is not destroyed with willing blood from all 7 lines, it will awaken fully and force every wolf in the packs into eternal shadow control." Vesper studied the carving, jaw tight. "Then we destroy it. Together. All of us, fractured and alpha, old and new." Mira tugged on Priya's hand. "Can I help? I don't want to be the key anymore. I want to be free." Priya knelt and hugged her. "You already are, little one. We all are." That night, in the quiet of her childhood home, Priya and Vesper were given the old family chambers. The mate bond pulled them together with aching need after the battle. They came together slowly at first, tender kisses turning hungry, hands exploring with reverence and urgency. Vesper worshipped every inch of her as if afraid the shadow might still steal her away, while Priya marked him with claws and teeth, claiming the man who had thawed completely for her. Their lovemaking was a defiance. A celebration of choice over curse, love over blood. The bond glowed brighter than ever, balanced and unbreakable, as they moved together until exhaustion and pleasure claimed them both. In the afterglow, wrapped in furs with Mira sleeping safely in the next room, Vesper traced the line of Priya's jaw. "Whatever the final head demands," he murmured, "we face it as one. You are my heart, Priya. Not hollow anymore. Full of fire." She kissed him softly. "And you are my home. Ice and all." But as dawn crept through the windows, a soft knock sounded. Eldrin entered, face grave, holding a small, sealed scroll that had arrived by Raven during the night. "It bears no mark," he said, handing it to Priya. "But the wax is the color of fresh blood." Priya broke the seal and read aloud, voice steady despite the chill that settled over the room. "Well done, daughter of fire and ice. You have slain the 5th head and freed your father. But the charter's rune feeds on every victory. The 6th head waits in the one place you have never looked, inside the mate bond itself. On the next full moon, the bond will demand a final price. One of you must willingly sacrifice the other's power to destroy the rune. Choose wrong and both hearts shatter forever. The shadow remembers every kiss, every touch, every vow. It will use them against you. Sleep well in your childhood bed. The final game begins when the moon turns full." Priya crumpled the note, looking at Vesper with wide eyes. The mate bond hummed between them, strong, loving, but now carrying the faint echo of a new, terrible choice. The shadow had not been external all along. It had been growing inside the very thing that had saved them, their love. Mira stirred in the next room, calling softly for her new mother. Priya reached for Vesper's hand, squeezing tight. 6 heads slain or exposed. 1 remained. And the price for freedom might be the very bond that had taught the Ice Lord how to feel again.
Thanks for following the story till the end. This story reminds us of how powerful love is, that it is one of the most amazing things we share as humans. Yet it comes with its difficulties and it comes with its challenges. But these challenges are surmountable when the two people involved are willing to work together and face whatever stands before them. I hope you have found this very enjoyable, and this is one of the things I love to do, to help us see love from another angle, unlike the conventional stories that we see where it has to be this way or that. Our stories draw your attention to the fact that there are so many areas of love that are unexplored, and I hope that you have found something very helpful from this. I would appreciate if you would follow us and subscribe to this channel. That is one way you encourage us and help our channel to grow and reach out to more people. Thank you very much, and see you in the next one. Stay enchanted.